Wow, 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 wow. Alright, guys. I am so excited to review what is about to come up. It's too early for ice cream. This is cottage cheese. Alright. Just putting up my document. Alright, guys. We are now starting. We are going to begin with the AD carry position. This is the top 5 list in each position. We're gonna make that bold. Boom. And underlined. AD carry. What does the chat say? Holy, I'm gonna milk this a lot, guys. Wild turtle. No, I'm kidding. I shouldn't do him like that, man. For me, it's ruler. So the reason I put ruler first is because... So think of it like this. Let's say 100% is the perfect player, alright? 100% is the performance of a perfect player, okay? Ruler consistently performs at a 95%. Jackie Love has the potential to perform at a 99. But ruler is constantly here. There's just a level of class, you know. Thank you so much for your subscription, Vertinon. As a person, you know, I don't get this feeling from a lot of people, okay? I had the honor of screwing both against Top Esports and against Genji, so I got to watch them very, very carefully. And also there was access to a lot of, you know, pro views. We scrimmed against Genji a lot. Okay, Genji ruler. Genji ruler, number one. I think his level of consistency is just so goddamn high. And if someone came in here and wanted to argue Jackie Love first, the only one who can head ruler at the moment is Teddy, to be honest. You have not been watching. I'm sorry. If someone told me Jackie Love is first, I would be like, yeah, understandable. Understandable. Jackie Love is fantastic. Really, really good. On top of that, the revitalization of... It was Falukorv Leoxte. The revitalization of Top Esports made him a top team with the addition of Jackie Love. Jackie Love is a world-class player, plays many, many different champions, and in general, just is world-class mechanically. Lane phase, world-class. Absolutely phenomenal. I would say Jackie Love has higher highs than Ruler, but Ruler's level of consistency is so fucking high. It is so goddamn high. So goddamn high. Number 3 is JDG Loken. JDG Loken is this school of AD carries right here. These 3 AD carries, let's make it clear. These 3 AD carries are a level ahead of everybody else. These 3 AD carries are a level ahead of everybody else. Whoever is 4th, there is no argument. There's no argument. Guys, Deft is really, really good. Deft is really, really good. On form, Deft should be in here. For sure. Deft should be in this conversation in form. But Deft, back injury. Deft back injury. That's fucking rough, man. He's having a hard time. And Deft definitely should be in this conversation. But right now I can't. Right now I can't. On form, for sure he should be here. My next one is going to Be very controversial. Very controversial. But the next one is Down One Gaming Ghost. The reason is Ghost is a very, very intelligent player. Very, very intelligent player. He can play anything. And his view and his vision for the game is super, super good. If we would look at Ghost as a pure AD carry, right? If this was a meta where, you know, it would be all about how good is the individual, you know, in terms of how good he is, you know, then yeah, he would be way lower. He would be way lower. As an AD carry, I think he's not that amazing, but as a player, very, very intelligent. Very, very intelligent. Vedius, like, go make your own list, man. Why are you here? Fifth is tough. Fifth is really tough. Fifth is really, really tough. Here, like, my criteria is going to be biased. My criteria is going to be very, very biased. This is my list. Naturally, it's going to be biased. This is through my lens of viewing the game. Fifth was a tough one, I'm gonna be honest. Fifth was a very, very tough one. Fifth could be Huang Feng. Fifth can be Deft. Fifth can be Reckless. If we make a little... And in my preliminary list, as I was thinking about it, I put Deft here. Keep in mind, you know, if someone told me, so I think Reckless is great. I really think Reckless is really good. Reckless is really good. We are going to make a top list for the bot lanes too. The only reason Perks has an honorable mention here is because the history of Perks is that he can really ramp things up in the span of a week. He can definitely ramp things up in the span of a fucking week. Let me just show you guys what is coming, okay? So we will have the history of Perks is world-class mid lane and mediocre carry the carry. Yo. Last year at Worlds, Perks was amazing. He was really good. Really good. So don't take that away from him. Do not take that away from him. Perks was a fucking monster last year. He was a monster. Number 1 is JDG Kanavi. I know there's a lot of people in the chat that just watched the best of 5 between Top Esports and JDG. But Kanavi did some monster fucking lifting. Monster lifting. He is fantastic. Really complete as a jungler. I think he makes Yagao look a lot better than he is. And Yagao also does the same for Kanavi. But Kanavi right now is the best jungler in the world for me. I don't think we should call Karsa overrated. Karsa is not overrated. If you look at the games for Karsa when he's playing against in matches that matter, you know, G2 is not the only team in the world that is allowed to relax. This is something that people refuse to acknowledge. Oh, when G2 is doing bad, oh, they're chilling, they're relaxing. Ooh, they are relaxing, yay! They're just fucking around. They're gonna be better later. You know, this can be done for a lot of players too. Karsa has had a monster career, man. That player has had a monster career. Karsa is very unappreciated. No offense to Jankos, but I feel like Karsa is like a better version of Jankos. I'm sorry, Jankos. I'm very sorry. Shit. But can he play Braum? Look at this man's career, man. Look at this man's career, okay? On Flash Rules, he was an absolute menace, man. He was an absolute menace. On RNG, he was really fucking good too. He was really, really good. Really, really, really good. Really, really fucking good. And if people are going to expect a player of this caliber to fucking perform every game, I know. The man is 23, man. How is he 23? How is this man 23? Guys, the key thing here is to add to this. Karsa is also, you know, like just because he has some shit games in the regular season, this is not something that you can, you know, judge him off of. It's the same as if putting Jankos in that same category because he had some bad games in the season, you know? It's like, a lot of people are saying Selfmade is better than Jankos, but I disagree. There are some players that have had so long fucking careers, they know how to fucking be good when it matters. They know how to ramp themselves up. Karsa falls in that category. Number 3, YamatoCannon. Naturally. Canyon swept the whole competition in LCK and made every jungler in the LCK look bad. Honestly. Hansama better than Doublelift, I would say yes. Canyon, very good synergy with his jungle, very good synergy, very good eye on how to play into any lane, very good gank sense, all of the things that all of the above have. Thank you very much, Tim Baron. I think Huanfeng has a lot of potential, guys. Huanfeng has a lot of potential. Yokalo, thank you very much for your subscription. Thank you very much, Just V. That's very nice of you. Thank you. Number 4. This one I had to do a lot of thinking, honestly. I know a lot of people are very excited about SoFM. But it's weird. I feel like SoFM is so good against players that are worse than him. But that also makes him quite terrible against players that are better than him. Which, to be fair, there's not many of them. Very comfort. This is. This can definitely be swapped. This can definitely be swapped. Honestly. This can be swapped. This for sure can be swapped. The reason, guys, the reason. So everyone's asking, like, why don't we put, you know, why aren't the EU junglers in there, you know? EU plays an honorable mention for damage control. No, really. Like, this is something that I really like. Players that are here were a part of my preliminary list, you know? Like, to be fair, I can be honest and say this was my preliminary list, you know? Put Shadow then? No, I don't think Shadow deserves to be here. If anything, it's like this, you know? But then again, like, I'm not so sold on Clit. Nevertheless, we continue. The reason why I am not so hyped on the EU junglers is... And also AD carries. Let me give it to you straight. When we look at how the regions evolved in these two positions, I think the Western regions were very slow. Very slow, guys. And even in the jungle position, I think the meta was very behind in Europe. It took forever for Europe to figure out that Ashe is good. The level of Kalista play in Europe has also been very poor. The level of support play has also been not that good. Bot lane, in general, was having a hard time. Self-made invented carry junglers. The thing is, I don't think this type of playing... This type of playing is not gonna fly. I just think that it will be hard to get away with this, you know? Like for the longest time ever, like just compare the performance. Just compare the performance of the Ashe players and the Jhin players in the LPL and the LCK. In contrast to what we see in Europe. And this is something that can change. It can definitely change. But I think also when you look at Nidalee play, you look at Graves play, you look at Lilia play, these are things that just have been way better in the eastern regions. And I think that's going to be a problem. I think that's going to be rough. I think that's going to be rough. Using ADC to talk about jungle? What do you mean? Wait, people are questioning why there's no Western players here. Like, this is me rating them as individuals. This is going to be filled with bias. This is a biased list. This is one man making a list. It's going to be filled with bias. It's going to be filled with bias, and it's going to be disagreements. It's going to be disagreements. It's going to be disagreements. That's okay. That's okay. And there can be arguments made for Reckless being here, for sure. There's definitely there's reasons to make that happen. But I think, you know, self-made, fantastic Evelyn, great Hecarim play as well. This is fantastic. He carried the best of 5 that they won against G2. But I just feel like if the right bans land, we're not going to have the same level of performance. And that is not something that is necessarily Selfmade's fault. That's not necessarily Selfmade's fault. That could be Fnatic's fault. You know? So there is a world where individually Selfmade can compete with all of these. I just haven't seen it yet. Because Selfmade is a fantastic jungler. And I think his ceiling is really, really good. Really, really good. I just think coming into the World Championship, I'm looking at these junglers and I think they are more prepared. They are more prepared. And then in the finals, when those bans landed, there was no Evelyn. I think Jankos had his number. But okay. Yo, these lists are in good fun, guys. These lists are in good fun. These lists are in good fun. I know, dude, I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys. There is a world where I wake up in a couple of days and I will no longer agree with this. It is what it is, you know? It is what it is. Support. Yeah, this is incredibly difficult to do, guys. Incredibly difficult to do. Number 1 is JDG Lemao. Absolute crazy. Very, very smart player. Very, very smart player. Very, very smart player. Breaks matchups like no other support. Breaks matchups like no other support. Breaks matchups like no other support, guys. Lane phase, super, super strong. Lemao is the real deal. He is the real deal. He really, really is. You know when you see a player and you're like, this guy could probably play mid lane if he wanted to. So how I view a support is the level of impact they have on the rest of the map, the risks they are taking and the consistencies of those risks. A lot of supports are going to int it, you know? That's the nature of the business of being support. You're going to take risks, right? You have to take risks as a support in order to maximize the role, you know? Lemao is very, very precise. High level of activity, very high level of precision. Very, very good support. Second, we have Damwon Barrow. Same criteria as above. His lane phase is not as often tested at Lemao because of the nature of how Damwon like to play. But both of these supports have one thing in common, and that is that they fucking pull target bans towards them. Whether it's a Pantheon or a Bard or whatever, a Leona pick for Barrow. Barrow is the world-class support coming out of Korea. He has been phenomenal. Phenomenal. Phenomenal player. Very, very good. The rest of the choices are very tough to do. I have to admit this. Koreans are here, Maro. Hello. Number 3. Also probably quite controversial. DRX Korea. Korea mechanically is really, really good. Mechanically fantastic. Really, really good. I think Korea as a ceiling is good. Is very, very high. It is very, very high. Mechanically, really, really fucking good. And I think it is easy to point to DRX's playoff performance, but Korea played a full split, guys. He played a full split. Number 4, I am a big fan of Sword Art. Very high level of precision. In sometimes. It's the nature of the role, honestly. Nature of the role. Nature of the role. But Sword Art is a big part of why Suning is a big part as to why Suning is a dark horse. Number 5. It's Mad Kaiser. Kaiser was class. You know, this was a very, very hard list to do because rating support is so fucking difficult. We have Mark, we have Life, we have Mickey. I guess it's very, very tough to do. I can see an argument as to why Korea shouldn't be here. You know, even looking at it, it feels a little bit off, you know? Yuyanja too. It's such a hard role to do. Like, these two are fucking easy, right? It's very easy. Everyone else has their issues. Right? Life lane phase? Whew. Life lane phase is really, really good. But in terms of overall impact on the map, yeah, for sure. If someone told me, Yamato, you have to do this, I would be like, yeah, we can put Kaiser here, we can move everything. You know? We can definitely move everything. Just, I feel like this, you know, I feel like after 3, 4, 5, whatever, it's just a fucking big question mark. It's like, boom. This is my list, guys. This is my support list. This is my support list. It's the same here. It's honestly the same here. Like, we can do this. These players belong in a different category. You know? Effort, easy carry. Like, why are so many people saying effort? Like, effort is not at the World Championship. I'm sorry. And then 4-5, you can change. You can argue for Yankos. You can argue for self-made. You know. Really. Because it's so stupid. Like, 3, 4, 5. Like, you can argue for anything here, man. It's like, we have a lot of solid fucking support. Mickey, Keria, Kaiser. It's like, where is Balan? Balan is not. I don't know, man. It's silly. Alright? It's silly. Is that healing well, guys? Do you guys see? Is this healing good? What do you mean Corona? I cut myself. Well, I don't know, guys. Like, what? It's just... Did you clean it? Yeah, with water? Yeah. I'm sorry, guys. The support list is scuffed as fuck, man. It would be something like this. It would be. let's just do this. Let's just do this, okay? This is the list. Sword out up here. Mark. Like, I don't know, man. It's so silly. Yeah, it's just, what do we do, man? Nice top 5. It's so hard. It's very hard. It's very hard. Wait, Riot made a top list? What did Riot do? Where is it? I bet Yamato thinks Sandbox is top 5. No. Whatever. It's my super top list is JDG, Lemao, and then Beryl, and then everybody else. Top. JDG Zoom. Can play anything, can play any style, very consistent, mechanically fantastic, plays team fights very, very well. I think this is the easy choice. I think good wave management. I think Zoom is legit, man. Zoom is fucking good. Zoom is really, really good. Very, very good. Number 2, G2 Wunder. The reason Wunder is second place is he knows how to ramp himself up for tournaments like this. Wunder plays any style. His biggest problem is that he just dies on side lane at around 15 to 20 minute mark. But across the board, he is very fucking solid. Very fucking solid. Great World of Warcraft player. Fantastic World of Warcraft player. Always on time for raids. This man does it all. I think the pool of top laners are not super exciting. Super exciting. Wunder is the type of player that can definitely, you know, adapt to whatever team he is about to face. And I think that's a very, very strong point to have coming into the World Championship. Wunder, in my eyes, definitely deserves this position in the ranking. Number 3, Damwon Gaming Nuguri. What's interesting about Nuguri is, I think in a team that doesn't have the caliber of players that like he has Canyon and Showmaker in his corner. He has Canyon and Showmaker in his corner. That is a big deal. But the same thing can be said for all of these top laners. Top lane is a very feast of famine role. You either eat shit, and you need to be good at eating shit, or you need to be the one that gives the pounding. You know? There is a world where Nuguri is overrated. I agree with that. I think there is a world where Nuguri is overrated. Because my issue with 369 is the same as Nuguri. I think this can definitely, you know, be changed. I think this is very easy to change. 369 is very, very good. I've seen some games where 369 really runs it, but that's the case for top. It's like I hope people realize how difficult these lists are to make. I hope people realize that. So when people judge them, remember that these are very tough to do, and at the same time, we are going to run into a tournament which we're going to see a lot of inconsistencies. Yeah, the Zoom. Like, honestly, the more you think about it, the harder it gets. That's what's so silly about it. The more you think about it, the harder it gets. Number 5 is Rascal for me. Not Finn. Guys, this is at the World Championship. Top players at Worlds, okay? Are you happy now? We're talking about Worlds players, you know? Rascal is a very solid player. I think Rascal is very solid. Plays a great GP, plays a great Ornn, plays a good Renekton, plays a great Gnar. He's very, very well rounded in the meta, and I think Rascal is very underrated. He's not going to do anything incredible, but he's very, very solid. Very, very solid. Honorable mentions. Like, honorable mentions are honestly people that I can argue for. You know, that's what honorable mentions are. Honorable mentions are players that I can argue for and accept if someone puts in their top 5. That's what honorable mentions are. So we got Bin. We've got Doran. We've got Bwipo. And now we realize that top lane is not super exciting at the World Championship, right? Top lane is not that exciting at the World Championship this year. It really isn't. Man, support is so difficult, man. The problem why I didn't put it is just like my document. You know, I made a list for everything, and I don't know, man. Support is so silly. Vedius, what do you put support? What do you put support? Whatever you choose, I'll choose. Okay. Call or no? Alright. Let's call, let's call. Get in here. Hello. Let me just fix the volume. Give me 1 second. So people can hear your beautiful voice. How you doing, Andy?
I'm good, man. How are you?
This is like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and they just call a friend.
Calling a friend.
It's hard, no?
No, bro. It's super fucking hard.
Oh, I thought you would say no. It's fucking easy.
Because I was like, I thought you were gonna do Zoom 369 Noggery then Wonder. I thought Wonder was gonna be your 4.
Okay.
And then you did, like, I made me laugh, the honorable mention, because I feel you, right? You always have those players that you're like, I want to put them in, but like there's not a strong enough argument for me to put those people in my top 5. And then like I could see, like, you know, you look at junglers, you look at AD carries, and I'm like, oh yeah, you know, I'm a little surprised didn't put this player in here, but like, you know, if I were to put that player in here, Yamato wouldn't like kill me for it.
Yeah,
but
you
look at that top list, and I see you on mentions, and I'm like, nah, I ain't putting any of those honorable mentions in my top 5.
It's like maybe Bin. Maybe Bin.
Bro, I don't think he's that good, personally.
Like, problem I have with Bin is he in the game where he looks bad, he looks very bad.
Yeah, I agree.
And
right, wait.
That's tough.
No, I agree with you. 100%. Completely agree. Right. Let
me... But he has crazy fucking good games.
Okay.
And it's like when I made my opinions about Suning, I agree with the whole notion that Suning is like a potential dark horse in the tournament because they have players that can have, like, if the stars align. I feel like they are Chinese Mad Lions.
Really?
They're like Chinese Mad Lions, you know?
So my interpretation of Suning was that they were a... Oh, wait, no, sorry, I'm confusing that for LGD. I thought LGD was like a slightly worse JDG, but okay, no, that's
I feel like LGD is like a better TSM. LGD.
Interesting. Okay.
They have some known names that are like slumping.
For sure.
And then they have a mid jungle that does stuff. You know?
Anyway, so support. Let's focus to stay on topic. Support players.
Okay. So if I get flamed for this list at all, I'm just gonna... It was Vedius.
No, but I 100% agree with you. Lumao, Beryl, I would 100% put top 2.
Yeah.
I think Carrier is really good.
I think Keria is really good too. Kaiser for sure. I would put in here.
Yeah, I think my only issue with Kaiser, right, is that this is his first ever Worlds, and it's not an easy Worlds, right?
Yeah,
Because he goes from quarantine straight into play-ins.
yeah.
So like my big like hesitation button on all the Mad Lions players are it's their first Worlds, and I'm really worried about how they're going to be able to play in a situation where they have to do quarantine and they have to do all this stuff.
Yeah. But it's such a weird world anyway. Like that was like my big disclaimer before I started, you know, just a big disclaimer. This World Championship is fucking weird. We don't even know what the patch is going to be because the patch isn't even out. Like sure we have some Margera tweets, but we don't even know what the patch is going to be. Like for all we know, like Lucian might be nerfed to the ground, Evelyn nerfed to the ground, and then what does that make of our opinion of like a Fnatic?
You're 100% right. That's such a good point, yeah.
And then we have the quarantine, as you mentioned. Like some players are gonna do fucking fine with that. Some people might fall apart. It's not something that that works for everyone. But the thing is, like the first worlds for players, there's a lot of fucking what's it called? There's a lot of fucking rookies actually. Crazy amount of rookies.
So many.
Yeah.
I was looking at ages, right? And I thought LPL would actually be sending the youngest players. LCK is. LCK has so many young players going to Worlds. And I'm not sure how many of them are going for the first time because I haven't looked at like veterans versus Worlds newbies, but like it's actually crazy how many young players are actually going to Worlds.
Yeah. Like there's a chance, like looking at top esports, maybe they just fucking collapse.
Yeah, bro. Exactly.
Could happen. Knight is going for the first time into the World Championship. Can happen. Right?
Yep.
He just goes to the World Championship and has a fucking gold V performance. Like, you know, I doubt it, but it could be. Like, it's such a. This is going to be a crazy World Championship.
Yep.
This is so hard to. But I'm just like I realize that the mindset I have to have doing this is I'm doing it for views. So
yeah, for sure.
that's what it is.
Sure. So like the thing is, when my plan is to do top 20. I'll either do it like personally or I'll do it as like part of Riot. I don't know yet.
Yeah.
But my plan is to do one. And my criteria will be that I will be judging all of the teams based on their most recent best of fives.
Okay.
In my opinion, like the thing is, the most experience I have is from EU teams, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not going to have the same regular season experience to have all the other regions. So I personally think that's pretty unfair on like
for sure
teams and all that. So I feel like if I just do the last two best of fives that every team has done, like that screws LGD a little bit because LGD don't look good in their most recent best of fives.
Yes.
But I think that it's a fairer way to assess, and like obviously that puts Europe much lower down because their best of fives did not look amazing.
It's also.
But that's why I'm not surprised by your lists either. Like the fact that you have so many LPL and LCK players, right? The thing I think fans always forget is like while LCK have not had the best results recently, LCK players or like Korean players have always been the best in the world. Like they just have been. Like I think of while they might not play for LCK and they may have gone from LCK to LPL, like Korean players, in my opinion, have always in the history of the league been considered the best individual players. So while sometimes they may not have the best team performances, I think that when you look at lists like this, it never surprises me that we see so many Korean players on them.
For sure. Like I even felt it scrimming in the LCK for a whole split. I could see it very clear that like individually players are just fucking monsters.
Yep.
And I think a big part of that is just the necessity of practice comes really natural for how the culture is in Korea. And I think the downfall of teams most of the time for Korean teams is the fact that the freedom of expression is non-existent because of the hierarchy of teams. Basically, someone is above you, you listen to that person, you don't voice your opinion, you agree, right?
Right.
And I think
so sometimes it can be difficult to solve problems, maybe.
Yes. It's like The culture is like this is from what I've seen. I'm not going to define the culture, of course, but often it's like everyone is very stoic. They take upon their own issues on themselves. It's about not being emotional or not expressing yourself. And I think that was like a big barrier that I had to work through. And of course, it differs from players, from teams to teams. But I think this is what like Damwon has figured out. I think everyone is very involved in the process of what they want to play, and I think this is like an LCK team that is kind of unleashed on that level too. It's crazy because European teams have the opposite problem. Like everyone is, and also like Western teams in general, everyone thinks they are a superstar. They want to take a big share. They want to be involved in the process, and sometimes by a little bit too much, and sometimes the discipline portion of it is not there. So it's a very, very intriguing conversation, for sure.
For sure. Anyway, I distracted from your list. So let's talk about supports.
Okay, let's talk about supports.
So in my opinion...
So we have... Let's just make a list of the potential candidates. Okay?
Yeah.
So we have Life, Korea,
Yuyanja,
and we have Mark,
Kaiser,
Sword Art,
and that that would be it for me. I wouldn't like.
Mickey and Hilly are weird.
Yeah, they're weird.
It's like Mickey, Hilly, like KoJJ, Vander maybe. Like Vander has been good.
So I'm a little bit more like, I haven't seen that much Mark, and I wasn't that blown away by Mark. Now, again, of course, I'm basing this a lot of the most recent best of fives that they've played, so perhaps my opinion is a little bit skewed, but Mark didn't stand out that much to me. So I would remove him from my list. And that's my opinion.
You know what my issue is that even though I watched a lot of these games, like I watched most LPL games, I watched most LCK games. Like even when I reviewed the LPL finals, like 2 weeks after, I didn't remember most of the things that happened. And I am trusting my past self like a memory, you know? Even though it's like not clear. So that makes it's like I have 4 months of memories.
Yeah.
But the only thing I really remember is the opinion. So that made this so hard. Because the more I thought about the supports, the bigger of a headache I got. Because
I mean, ultimately, what I would define them as is like, when I look at what a good support is, I think about their 2v2 laning, and I think about impact on the map. And I think that you did the same thing when you looked at Lumao and Beryl.
Yeah.
And I was in full alignment with you. Like, when I was watching the JDG games, I was like, wow. Lumao is like... Level 1 always goes for a play. Literally every level 1. I'm like, okay, shit, this is crazy. And like, he roams so well. His bard is like the best in the world.
Yeah.
Crazy fucking bard player.
It's just fucking exciting to talk about Lumao like this. What a fucking great player.
Yeah, he's insane. And I think the Beryl just a little bit behind him. Only because perhaps Beryl just isn't as flashy. And maybe that's just because LCK teams, but like, Beryl definitely up there. And so when I think of these other supports on this list, I think of like Sword Art, who like, okay, maybe his 2v2 not as strong, but his map play I always consider in very high regard. I think Yuyanja in team fights is like pretty crazy as well. Mechanically, like he's an exceptionally strong support.
Yeah.
And so like these two immediately, I'm then thinking like 3-4. Now, of course, my experience is a little bit less with Life because I've been focusing a lot on LPL recently and I haven't done as much LCK prep. So my opinion on Life and Carrier is a little bit skewed. But for me, the biggest hurdle I have for putting Kaiser top 5 is the fact that he is a rookie. And so while I think that he's an exceptionally strong 2v2 laner, and I think that his map impact can be very good, and he also has a lot of the innovation that you talk about. Like, he was playing a lot of Wukong during the regular season. He played a lot of Pantheon bot as well. It's the fact that he's a rookie that makes it so hard for me to like put him anywhere higher than 5th right now.
But what's crazy is, like, how long has Lumao played? Like, how long has Lumao played? I don't even know.
Lumao? I think he's
Lumao
quite
has
young
played.
too, isn't he?
He's Starhorn Royal Club. He's 24. So Lumao has fucking
Oh shit,
played.
never mind.
I just fucking... Yeah, it's hard to keep track of all the teams. He's been JDG since 2017. Okay, I had no fucking clue. I can admit that. Live Korea, this is their first fucking year. This is they're also rookies. It's crazy. It's such a tough list to make. Like I think Sword Art, like if you rate SoFM high, then you have to rate Sword Art high. I think, because I think a big part of what they do is, you know, just inherently together. I think Kaiser, I agree with the notion. Like it's weird because I chose not to take part any of the speculation because there's so much speculation that can be made.
That's a fair argument, yeah.
Because the speculation portion, like everything can be wrong in this year's Worlds.
Then if I were to put pure mechanics and map impact in combination, then I would rate Kaiser very highly. I would, personally. Now, of course, I'm going to be slightly biased because I have a whole season of watching Kaiser and I've been able to see like what he's capable of. And even in his final that he lost, I thought that he was still like insanely fucking good in the playoffs thing that he was in.
Yeah, for sure.
Rogue. So I would rate him pretty highly personally.
Yes. So I think Kaiser definitely slots in here. Life, I think his laning is fantastic. But it's also like the question of Genji's approach to the game. Most of the time, it is not about cutting the mid in half, which I think is going to be like the trend of the whole World Championship. Like, who has the strongest 3v3 in the tournament?
Yeah.
I think that's going to be like the whole conversation. And when I think of Mad Lions, that's like, I think Kaiser and Shadow have allowed in a lot of games, what's his name? Humanoid to play like an absolute gorilla.
I think that's fair.
But also, if we look at recent performance, Mad Lions has been like the last 4 weeks of play. They didn't look good.
Agreed.
So I would agree with putting Kaiser there for sure. For sure, I'm with you. Yuyanja as well. Like it's like everyone has nuggets of gold, but no one's really like shining. That's why I was like, fuck it, I'm not putting any 3, 4, 5.
Yeah. I mean, like, I understand. I agree. It's a tough one. But, like, I think the reality is you can make an argument for any one of them. I would probably do Kaiser 5. I would probably have Sword Art 4. And then I would have probably Yuyanja 3, personally. Probably. But then I'm also biased because I don't have as much LCK knowledge as I do LPL right now. So maybe when I watch more LCK games, that will shift. Because I do know Carrier is very good. But I haven't been able to study Carrier enough. So.
What are your thoughts on jungle and AD carry before we move on to mid?
So, I think Selfmade is one of the best junglers in the world. So he would 100% be in my top 5 junglers.
Okay, I think that's fair. I think
that the fact that like G2 as a team, I know is like super controversial for many reasons. But I think the fact that a single player can carry a whole best of 5 against that team, in my opinion, showcases how talented of a player he is. And so I think the way he approaches the map and like the things that he does is like exceptionally strong. And in my opinion, if he had a Caps on his team, like that would be probably one of the scariest mid jungle duos on the planet. So I would put Selfmade somewhere on my list. I'm surprised you put Peanut on there. I didn't think like Peanut's good, don't get me wrong, but Peanut's to me that person that kind of has like really high highs, but then also has games where he doesn't do anything. So I don't see that same level of consistency from Peanut, which is why for me he wouldn't be on my top 5.
And I agree completely with this thought process because like my argument against Selfmade is after the right bans landed, he was, you know, a cat without claws. And I don't know. And at the same time, this is a Fnatic issue. So I can't really put that on Selfmade.
Yeah.
So
that's kind of how I feel, exactly. I think that Selfmade's limitations come more from Fnatic than they do from Selfmade.
Because at the same time, Selfmade as a player, like Nemesis has history of never ever fucking playing mid 2v2. Like it was the same with Broxa and now the same thing with Selfmade. So I don't know what the problem is there. It's once again we're in speculation territory. But I'm also impressed with how if Fnatic looks so discombobulated, I don't know what the word is. They look so apart, and being effective as a jungler in such a setting is hard. But I think also in a world where 10.16 doesn't happen, I feel like I wouldn't have had the same high opinion. And my reservation for Western junglers this year is because the meta I felt watching like LEC, I felt like the jungle meta was very, very slow to evolve. I think they were
very
quick. They were quick with the set jungle and the Volibear. This is something that we stole away from there. But then afterwards, like the Lilia play, the Nidalee play, the Graves play, all of that was uninspiring.
I think European laners are pretty selfish overall. I think that what always has impressed me about LPL, pretty much for the entire existence of LPL, is like how quick junglers are willing to just pick up carries and just play them. Obviously, sometimes to LPL's detriment in the past, but they've always been able to sit there and go, okay, fine, we'll fucking play Galio mid and we'll play whatever top and we'll let our jungle carry. And I feel like that solo laners in Europe are just less willing to do that. And again, maybe that's speculation, but like we've heard from G2 themselves where they say that they don't operate as well when like we watch Caps literally get so much jungle support attention so that he can solo carry games. Right? Yeah. We don't often see Caps playing for Jankos. Like I actually can't think of a game where I've ever seen that.
Yeah.
Right?
Doesn't happen.
And that's why, like, when you sit there and people are like, Jankos doesn't play Evelyn, I'm like, is it that Jankos doesn't play Evelyn or Caps doesn't know how to enable Jankos as an Evelyn player?
For sure.
And I think that that's one of the big struggles. And like, this is what, when you talk about it, that's like one of my biggest concerns. Like LPL teams know how to operate with a Graves, know how to operate with a Nidalee. And they do like,
and also if they want to,
Kindred is another great one as well.
What's crazy as well is they can just as easily play fucking Lee Sin. They can play Set if they wanted to.
Yeah.
Because like even looking at like Kanavi, his first place, right? Everyone like naturally what you think about is his Nidalee play, his Graves play, his Lilia play. But he had like when Lee Sin was meta before the nerf happened, he was monsterly, monster.
Wait, Kanavi?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's insanely.
And it's the same thing that can be said for Canyon. And the same thing that can be said for Karsa. So I just put them in a whole different category. Because SoFM and Peanut, 100%, I could replace them with Yanko, self-made, and maybe even inspired. I'm with you there 100%. That's why it's like I made the separation in the list. So it's weird.
I think, yeah. So in my opinion, I'm heavily considering putting Karsa above Kanavi based on my metrics of most recent performances.
I think Kanavi didn't perform so well. Like he performed good in game 2 and game 4, but in the other games, like he had that one Nidalee game where he just died on golems like 5 times.
Yeah,
which was like what the fuck.
I think
he was ahead.
Karsa is so insane.
I think Karsa is really, really good too.
At least right now, based on his most recent performances, he's playing really insane. And I understand why people would put Kanavi above Karsa. Totally fair. I get it. But under my metrics, I would personally put Karsa as higher than Kanavi. And I think that, like, Frost makes this point all the time, but it's such a good one. Like, TS are a much better version of what IG were, right? Like, super strong solo laners, but, like, the success of IG was dependent on what Ning and Balan showed up on the day. Karsa and Lumao are, like, two of the most consistent players you have. Like, wait, sorry, Lumao plays for JDG, Yuan. I think that Karsa does a lot more of the thinking, but I have so much faith in... why do I pronounce this wrong? Is it Yuanchia?
Jumanji.
I think that, with Karsa and that, I think that they're just so consistent and they're really good. So I have so much faith in Karsa. I think that he does so much for that to you. I've been really impressed with Karsa recently. So Yuyanja. Thank you.
I think also, like people... I think a lot of people are sleeping on Karsa because he had some poor performances in the regular split. But players get tired. Like Karsa has been playing competitively and has been at the fucking World Championship every fucking year for as long as I remember. Like with Flash Wolves, like it's dating back far back. Super, super far back. And in every team that he is in, like even when RNG, I think... Like, they lost... Like, my opinion of RNG last year was... I think they didn't get out of groups because of the nature of best of ones. because I think they were better than Fnatic, and they were also better than SKT.
Yeah.
Because early game wise, they had leads and then they just ran it. Like they had Nash and they just like Galio ease into the tower, and then SKT had just come that outscaled, and then the draft against Fnatic in the final game was just
that's what I was going to say. Wasn't it just a draft issue with RNG? That was mainly why they struggled last year.
Like they gave up Xayah when Xayah Kaiser was OP, put Uzi on Ezreal in the final game, and it's just I don't know. It was weird, and Kasa did crazy things early to get ahead. So I have a very, very high opinion of Kasa too. And someone told me, like people are saying that Kasa gets carried by his team, but Lumao has arguably the best bot lane and arguably the best top lane in the whole tournament. And like Kanavi is fantastic, but to say that, you know, Kasa has good players, that's why he's good, is really silly at this level of play, I think.
I don't know. I think Kasa is so insane, in my opinion. I think he's so good. Anyway, it doesn't matter. 1 and 2, like, very interchangeable. I think LPL have the best junglers. Even when Suning was losing with SOFM, I still thought that he did a lot of, like, very good things, you know? So I'm excited for him. And I think it's very fair to not have an EU jungler in the top 5. I think your arguments are very good, so I wouldn't like worry too much about that.
Like my biggest worry is like what's weird about SoFM. I think if he was up against the junglers that are above him in the list, I think he looks very bad.
Yeah,
because he has like this. I feel like he's like Shadow on crack almost. And I think if you don't make silly mistakes, you end up being ahead. And I think the reason I'm willing to put Peanut is just I have this big worry for the European junglers coming into the tournament that don't execute good on Nidalee, good on Graves, good on Lilia. And maybe I'm putting too much weight into that, but
no, dude, I think it's fair. I think like right now, like Damwon and JDG and Top should be considered favorites for the tournament, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I think it's very fair. I am, of course, a little bit worried for Europe as well.
Yeah, it's weird because, you know, G2 last year, their biggest issue, I think, was the fact that they bootcamped in Europe. And now, this year was supposed to be the difference maker in terms of, you know, bootcamping and abroad. But now they have this fucking situation where they wanted to ramp up into the World Championship and improve during the World Championship and be at peak form coming into the finals. But how the fuck do you do that now with all the craziness that's happening?
Oh, dude.
I don't fucking know, man. Absolute madness.
Do your mid list, Yamato. Do your mid list. Everyone wants to know the mid list.
We just fuck support us.
Yeah. Did you know support? Just put the names in. You're fine. Whatever.
Just put the names in. All right. Just nah. I'm leaving it at that. I'm leaving it at that, man. I don't want anxiety in my life. So I'm
gonna stay quiet. You do your mid list. I want to hear
you. You're sitting quiet. All right.
Yeah, I'm gonna stay quiet.
Okay. So for me, number 1 coming into the tournament is Knight. And the reason is, I think with a lot of the things that he does, I am getting serious flashbacks from moments in time where it's weird, because if Knight came up in a different era, I think he could have, you know, the caliber of how Faker was talked about coming into Season 3 World Championship. And I think his synergy with Kasa, I think that's a different conversation, shouldn't be involved that, but I think just champion pool, lane awareness is super, super solid. And I think he has always been on the cusp of really, really breaking out. But I think Knight is really, really good. I think he's a very, very well-rounded player. And that is going to matter in my conversation coming into the second pick. My second pick is DRX Chovy. Chovy, lane phase wise, if this was a 1v1 tournament, I would put my money on Chovy. If this was a 1v1 tournament for sure, I would put my money on Chovy. Lane wise, this guy is an absolute monster. He plays everything. He understands the map very well. Hard to gank him, hard to deal with him. A very, very strong player. Very, very strong player. I'm excited to watch Chovy. Mechanical God. Number 3 is G2 Caps. So everyone's going to be up in arms because I guess people imagine that I would put Showmaker here. But let's leave that conversation for when I discuss mid 2v2, because that matters a lot. That matters super, super much. Naturally, number 4 for me is Showmaker. The reason Caps is 3rd is I think mechanically fantastic, can play anything that is relevant to meta. I think also he has a beautiful eye for the game in terms of what he needs to impact. He understands how to impact into bottom side, he understands how to impact into top, he understands how to set up his lane for junglers. He just has a great eye for what the game is. I think Showmaker, lane phase wise, mechanically, also really, really fucking good. Really, really fucking good. There's no shame in being 4th. And if someone told me that a Showmaker should be 1st here, 2nd, I would be like, yeah, that's totally understandable. That's totally understandable. I think what's holding me back here is Showmaker doesn't have the same level of impact on the map as I would argue a Caps does. And the tricky thing about all of this is the thing that is giving me reservations about Caps is I think one time in Europe he was tested, and that was against Larson. And Larson performed very well, and there were games where Larson played better than Caps. And I think that came as a shock, because I think Caps was coasting against most of the mid laners that we had in Europe. And I think Larson is definitely the 2nd best mid laner that we have in Europe. And if we look at some of these other regions, you know, people want to talk shit about Yagao or you know, some of the mid laners that come from the LPL. But these players are fucking good. These players are good. These players are legit. The same thing for the LCK. The mid laners in the LCK, Showmaker, Chovy, BDD, that is some high level shit. Some very, very high level shit. And Caps, the only reservation I have is the amount of resistance he has faced in Europe. And for some, that's enough to put Caps on 5th, which I would understand, or maybe 4th, which I would understand. I think Showmaker is fantastic. Number 5. Oh, I'm just gonna move the entire list here. Number 5. Here we get into the territory of question marks again. Here we get into the territory of question marks. So I'm gonna put Power of Evil. No, I'm kidding. I don't know why I did him like that. That was completely uncalled for. It's just I don't know. For me, it has to be BDD. It has to be BDD. I think BDD was super insane throughout the split. I think lane phase wise, the man is like a robot. He is like a rookie light. is what I would view him as. Keep in mind, guys, this is a World Championship list. The players that are at the World Championship. I know you want your Tarzan in there, you want your Rookie in there, you want your Deshai, but this is not... That ain't it. You know, these players are not at the World Championship. So BDD is my 5th. I think his Azir, Orianna, his Zoe, very, very dangerous player. Honorable mentions, I would put Xie, I would put Yagao. I think Yagao is very underrated. Everyone likes to talk shit about Yagao. I think Yagao is like a better version of Doinbi. Doinbi being the extreme version of a player that really, really plays for his team and understands where to be. But right now he doesn't have the champion pool to supply that. Yagao mechanically is decent. I think Yagao is good. So my honorable mentions would be Xie, Yagao, and then I would put Larsen. And then at the risk of convoluting it too much, like sure, Angel could be there. Angel could be there. Who else? Yeah, Angel could be there. Then maybe a Bjergsen. The biggest disservice to Bjergsen was that he wasn't allowed to practice against a player like Jizuke, because that would have prepared him better, I think, for the World Championship. But if you're in a world where you are allowed to blind pick TF and win games with it, because you're so much better than the enemy mid, Zilean the same, I think you're in for a shocker at the World Championship. All right, Vedius, are you with us?
Yeah, mate, I'm here.
What do you think, my friend?
I was surprised you put Showmaker 4.
Okay.
But I think your arguments are great. I think it's fair. I guess I have a lot more confidence in Showmaker. Just because I think that after Worlds last year, I expect him to be a lot better. And I think that he's been playing so insanely well recently.
Yeah.
I am surprised, like, I don't know what people's perceptions of Yagao are, because again, like, I haven't watched a huge amount of LPL this split, but obviously I've been watching semifinals plus finals, and like, when I was watching JDG, I was trying to form some opinions of them, and I was just like, okay, how well do they play to their comps? And like, I think that they definitely have a very distinct style difference to top esports, but Yagao just feels so reliable, you know? And like, his team fighting is just so good.
Yeah, he's a very good player, for sure.
And so, like, Yagao and Loken in team fights, I'm like, if they're alive, they almost always win. So, I'm like, so I was, like, debating, like, would I put Yagao over BDD? That's my number 5. But I also appreciate that for mid lane, as like, actual laning strength is very important. And I think your argument for BDD is fair. So... I also think that
yeah, go ahead.
LCK have a really strong history of sending exceptionally strong mid laners every year to the World Championship. You know, like, obviously EU has the meme of EU midsman, but
I think that's kind of dead, no?
Well, a little. I mean, obviously we have Larsen now, who I'm extremely excited
Larsen
for.
is fucking hype, man.
And he's going to be, like, really put to the test, you know, because he is, I believe he's with JDG and Damwon, right? So yes. He's got Yagao and he's got Showmaker. So... if he's going to make it onto this list, he's got great conversation starters to test him. I think that it's a tough list. I agree with your top 4 100%. That would be my top 4.
Yeah. It's the same thing, right? It's the same as a debuff. Like there is like a separation after this point.
But even then, I still think that like mid is the most exciting role for me at Worlds.
Yeah, for sure,
Because even when people talk about Bjergsen, like, you know, people like to meme like, oh, he's from NA, and you know, like I think, you know, potentially the competition that he has. I think you made a great point. Like he can blind pick certain champions and not get punished for them. But I have really high expectations for Bjergsen at Worlds as well. So I think the mid is really stacked at this tournament.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to see all of them play. So I think it would be great.
For sure, for sure. No, I'm with you on that completely. Like I think it is like it's weird because like my argument, a big part of my argument for Showmaker fourth is I think what Barrel and Canyon, like they were, I feel like they were miles ahead of their competition in their role, and that matters. And I think Damwon is coming into the tournament in very good shape because I think they were playing in a way that can win world championships coming into it, and that might be, you know, it's also in the most recent best of 5 Showmaker against Chovy. Like it's hard to compare it because Showmaker there's the argument for Showmaker that he's waiting for the inevitable victory. If Chovy doesn't get out of control, the game is over. So there's no reason for him to do anything crazy, right? There's no reason for him to do anything crazy. And I know that a lot of people in the chat are pointing out to Showmaker's performance at the World Championship last year, but this is not the same team. It really isn't the same team. It's a completely different story.
Yeah.
They have a different coach. They have a different approach to the game completely. They seem loose, and this summer was really, really their time to shine. And I think coming into the tournament, they have the right way of playing the game to win the championship. And I would argue the same for Top Esports, and I think that's why I rate these two teams the highest coming into the tournament.
So this is really interesting. How can you justify having so many players from Korean teams without good results recently? So like, again, I think something Yamato and I talked about earlier was that you can still have some of the best players in the world without winning anything, right?
Yeah.
And like, I think that Korea has other issues aside from talent. And I think, like, I would say that when you look at European teams and North American teams, one of the biggest criticisms of them when it comes to international events has been they don't have the talent to compete internationally. They're just not good enough. And I don't think that's ever really been a point of concern for Korea. Main reasons why they struggle or have struggled recently is an inability to adapt or change to the meta. Poor drafting has always been one of the biggest issues. I think that many people felt that when SKT and G2 played in the semifinals last year, SKT had a lot of really questionable drafts that made it very difficult to win games against G2. And like, you know, like, but one of Damwon's biggest issues last year was the scrims versus stage. Like, I knew how good Damwon could be, and then in the quarterfinals against G2, they didn't show up at all. And obviously they were partially gated by the champion pool of their AD carry, Nuclear at the time. But I think that results are not always reflective of what the issues are. And like, if Yamato was to make a list of who are the best drafters in the world, then you'd probably get a very different list. Yeah,
oh, yeah. For sure. That's why, like, I plan to make a top 10 list of the teams as well at the end of this list, because it's vastly different.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's not that vastly, considering there's a lot of JDG top esports players and Damwon players in the top, but still, it's relevant.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm not gonna do a drafter top 5. No fucking way.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
That is dangerous.
Don't do that. That was just. Yeah, that's fucking hard. Yeah, I like your mid list. It's good. It's super controversial, which is what I love about the mid lane right now. Because like, one of my issues, someone pointed out, like, I want to remind everyone that Vedius didn't even put Caps on his list last year. I'm like, that's because Caps was really giga trash in his finals against Nemesis.
Yeah, he was.
He was like really bad. And I don't even think Caps had that great of a tournament last year at Worlds.
Oh, that's maybe harsh. Like, I think he 1v9'd against Damwon. I think his group stage was not super exciting. And
I'm trying to remember, because I honestly don't remember it as well as. But
like in playoffs against SKT and also against Damwon, he was really good. Like in groups, it was unexciting.
Maybe I'm just misremembering. Maybe that's my mistake.
Yeah, it's okay. It's fucking ages ago, forever ago. Top 2v2 mid. That's what I wanted to move on to next. I agree with you completely. Vedius. Mid is fucking hype, very hype, and I think it always comes down to the same thing. I think any team that is coming into the World Championship and they don't play 2v2 mid, good luck learning that in quarantine. I think everyone's is going to run into a massive surprise.
Wait, when you say top 2v2 mid, you mean mid jungle, right?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. When you said top 2v2 mid, I thought you actually meant top mid.
No, shit. Best 2v2 mid. I'm going to rephrase it. Best 2v2 mid. Okay. So this is a vastly different question, because Chovy is not going to be on this list. Because Chovy Pioshi 2v2 mid is something that was showcased a little bit, but not enough in the regular split. So let me think here for a second. Mid 2v2, I would put Knight Karsa first. Second,
that's a great 2v2. I
think YamatoCannon.
Agree.
Number 3, I'm looking at Kanavi and Yagao. Number 4, this is where we get into murky waters, because I don't know anymore.
I mean, I would put Kapsyanko personally.
That's what my document has as well, but at the same time, they got pretty smacked by what's their name?
Rogue? Inspired Larson?
Yeah, Inspired Larson.
So we put Inspired Larson for, that's also fine.
So it's like the teams that come to mind is Shea Peanut. That's one. There is Inspired Larson. Yeah. It's weird because Shea Peanut. It's weird because LGD's success is only these two guys, I think. And I think Shea is a good player. Peanut is a good player, but I'm not going to rush. I'm not going to be like, holy shit, they need to be on my list. Yeah. BDD, Klid. Okay, Klid is a strange pickle. Like, he's a strange pickle. Sometimes Klid is really good. Sometimes he is just not there. It's tough.
I mean, you have to have Kapsyanko somewhere here.
For sure. Kapsyankos need to be here. So it's either 4 or 5. Is there anything that justifies a 4th of these? I think, like, if you want to put Chovy Pioshik in the consideration, I just don't think their 2v2 is really all that there. Nemesis Selfmade. Oh, that's a great 2v2 mid, guys. That's a good meme.
I mean, like, it's a bit of a meme.
It's basically Chovy. It's only Chovy.
So the thing about Mad is that they pretty much only play, or a lot of their success comes through their mid, but that's also like jungle support mid. Do you know what I mean?
So maybe it should be best 3v3 mid. Maybe that's the fucking conversation.
Or like what jungle support too, right? It depends on your perspective. Because then I would potentially put Kanavi, Yagao, and Lumao first.
Yeah, for sure. I'm with you on that. But and then I would put YamatoCannon second.
I mean,
yeah, it would just get too murky. I'm with you on Kapsyankos 4th, and then 5th. We'll just leave a question. We just leave Chovy alone there. Let's just Chovy.
Chovy is. I'd like someone putting Chovy/Chovy. That was pretty funny.
Just Chovy solo is better than Björk speaker. It's just
SOFM Angel. I didn't think there was like a huge amount of like synergy between the two. Maybe I just haven't seen enough games. Maybe, but I didn't feel like that team won games through their mid jungle.
It's weird because like during the regular season, for me personally, and once again, this is where my bias is fucking shining through so bright. Like Sooning's games were not so memorable, and that's only for me. Like I remember a lot of the IG games. I know I can talk about IG at a great length, but I'm not gonna sit here. I'm not gonna pretend to you guys that I just went through every fucking LPL vote again just to make this list. This is just some banter. We're shooting the shit. Doing BTN, oh bro, yeah.
That is a good 2v2 mid jungle. That is a good one.
Oh. Thank you for the sub. Thank you. Yeah, like fifth, any one of these could be there, I think. But
I think it's really fascinating because it's like in a top 20 list, right? Top 10, I think it gets easy, but then when you start getting to like 11, 12, you're like...
Then it's complete fucking, you roll a dice. There's like this group of players that you would accept being there, and that's it.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you have that guy? Sure. Why not? Sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. I get it.
Yeah.
I put this guy. Oh, you get it too? Oh, yeah. All right. I think
top 10 is probably like the most controversial. We're just like, whoa, this guy isn't one of the best players on the planet? And then you're just like, what if he's 19th? And you're like, oh, okay, fine. Yeah, okay. 19, 16, I'll swap him. That's fine. Whatever.
Ugh.
So yeah, I agree with you. I think top 4 is pretty comfortable.
Cool.
But then then this is kind of like where my question comes in, right? Because I'm like, so obviously you rate Chovy very highly, but also what makes Showmaker so good is because, well, number one, his team obviously makes him much better, right? But do you think it's more impressive what Chovy's able to do with fewer resources relative to Showmaker? Is that kind of where that individual comparison comes from?
I guess, yeah. I just think, like, even in the best of 5 against Genji, like I think DRX and Genji, the level of draft blunders they did sometimes is really, really like crazy. Like there was a game where that stands out to me the most, where we had Chovy on Silas into the Karma, but like blind picking Karma into Chovy is just criminal. Like I think it's borderline, like it's similar level of doing something like blind picking TF or blind picking Zillion. It's just fucking, it's disrespectful. And I think that was a big part of it. And then also, like, the one game Showmaker completely dominated was when the enemy, like, he just fucking straight up picked Irelia third into 3 champions, which Irelia is not good into. Like, he picked Irelia third, and the only 3 champions he saw was Nidalee, Pantheon, Renekton. Like, that is some hard inting. And then Showmaker on Akali had the best day of his life. Like, if Showmaker is in a better matchup against someone like Chovy, which is the case for, I think, all of these 4 players, I think they're going to show what the matchup really is. And, yeah, I
think that's fair.
I don't know what the fuck we were talking about.
Well, I was talking about, like, the comparison between Showmaker and Chovy. Because obviously
yes.
you put Showmaker Canyon higher here, and you talked a little bit about draft and how that kind of influences your opinion of Chovy versus Showmaker,
Yeah. And then
what is really interesting about mids right now is, like, I look at mid laners and I think that players that can play Zoe, Syndra, LeBlanc should be, like, considered good.
Yeah.
Or, like, favorable coming into this tournament. And you immediately look at Knight, Showmaker, Caps, and, like, all of these guys play these champions very well.
Yes. For sure. And I think
that makes it.
Yeah. I think maybe you can squeeze in an Azir there and Orianna. I think that's also very, very relevant. And I think
that's my big question. Like, in playoffs, in LPL, like, I felt like their mid lane meta was so different to Europe's. And it was really fascinating to me.
What's stood out to you? Remind me.
So I mainly I'm still going through the finals, but in the semifinals there was like 0 Azir at all. And you compare that to, like, Rogue. I know Fnatic didn't play a lot of Azir, but, like, obviously their priorities are things like, we want Lucian was always banned, obviously, because they're like they love their Nidalees and their it was LGD, I believe, that played the Lucian Nidalee first on competitive, right?
Yeah. Wait. Can you repeat? Sorry.
LGD, they were the first ones to play the. I don't know if they were first, but I saw them playing some Lucian Evelyn, and they were.
I think
Or was it JDG? Am I confusing it? It was in that
played
series.
Evelyn
JDG
first.
versus LGD, and I saw an Evelyn and a Lucian. Am I
JDG
confusing
played
the two?
Evelyn first.
It was
Yeah.
JDG. Okay, JDG. Yeah.
The Camille top.
But like, there was a huge priority on Lucian, and I know that they're very willing to play AP junglers over there. And so I think that like that shift in priority is very, because we were all like about the Hecarim, right? We were like Hecarim first pick, Hecarim mega priority. They're willing to give up things like Ashe for the Hecarim, and like this difference in like what carry junglers and mid laners would pair up with it just felt so different between Europe and LPL. That kind of ties back to your point where the jungle meta I think is going to favor much more the LPL because it feels like they have a much deeper pool to go into.
Yeah, for sure. I think I'm with you on that for sure. I think Hecarim is like the power of Hecarim was really overblown. I think in Europe, because it's hard for me to imagine a world where like Hecarim is gonna do well into some of these ranged junglers. Because I think the emphasis of what's going on from 1 to 5 in the LPL is so obvious, and the amount of activity they've figured out to do from level 1 to 5. Like if someone picks Hecarim against an LPL team, they're going to invade you with their Lilia. They're going to make you hurt. They're going to get the bot prio. They're going to dive your mid lane at level 3 with their Pantheon support or whatever. Like it's going to be like the level of activity is very, very, very crisp. So I don't think it's something that you can just coast by, like, oh, we're in a lull phase. I don't think that's.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at the stats right now. LPL didn't even pick Hecarim in playoffs, not once. And they banned Azir once as well throughout the whole of playoffs in LPL.
The reason why Azir dropped in prior, what I believe, is like the issue with Azir is that he's a fine blind pick. But the problem is you can pick almost anything into it. And yeah. And
I also misspoke earlier. I was looking at the regional gauntlet rather than the actual playoffs.
Oh, cool.
Azir was picked 5 times and he lost 4 out of his 5 games.
Because like you look in Azir, the enemy can choose. They can go Syndra, they can go Akali, they can go Ziggs, and they can pick the champion that is good into the rest of your champions. And I think that just makes a liability, right? Like if I'm picking Syndra, there's a very specific school of champions that are good into Syndra that people are going to lean towards. Sure, you can pick Ziggs and Orianna, whatever, into Syndra, but most mid laners are gonna want to gravitate towards something like an Echo or Akali. And I think this is why people have shied away from Azir, because of the possibility to pick whatever the fuck you want. Like if you blind pick Zoe, the options become much slimmer. Like you're going to pick Orianna, Syndra, and you know exactly what you're dealing with. And then maybe you have a Bard going for you, and then you can control the flow of the draft a little bit more. And I think that's why Azir has dropped in prio. I think also his items are pretty expensive. I think maybe saying that they're expensive is the wrong word, but the phase between items, you feel it very, very hard as an Azir player, and that's sometimes tricky.
Bro, the meta is going to be so interesting because obviously we had no MSI, right? And we would assume that the meta between MSI and Worlds would be different, but because you don't get that first taste of international competition, you don't really get a grasp on how the top teams like to approach the game. And because of that, I feel like everyone's just coming in with their idea of what the best way to play the game is. And obviously there are some things that are agreed upon, like Ashe is clearly very high priority. Caitlyn is still very high priority. But like the LPL almost always ban Twisted Fate, whereas Europe has completely abandoned it, you know? And I'm like looking at that like, okay, that's crazy. And then like you
LCK
look at
as well
jungle.
ban a lot of fucking TF depending on the player.
Right.
Like there's some twisted fates that you just want to avoid, like a Faker twisted fate or a BDD twisted
Yeah.
fate. There's some twisted fates that are just so dangerous. Like usually the teams that know how to play for the jungler are really good TFs, and that's fucking, as you said, it's LPL in a nutshell.
Yep. And I think that's crazy because like one of the big things that always I always try to think about is obviously a lot of people look at the most recent performances and they'll be like, okay, this is what a team looks like coming into Worlds. And it's like, well, no, because there's 3 weeks of scrimming everyone. There's a whole like meta development. Depending on who you scrim, depends on what becomes meta and what doesn't. Like, I'm not saying this is happening, but EU teams could just choose not to scrim any of the LCK teams.
Yeah, it's complete RNG. Like you,
Yeah.
like there might be one team that figures everything out, and then it like spreads almost like I want to say virus, but now is not the time to use that analogy. It's, I don't know, man. I can't find anything else. It's kind of like,
But it can be
contagious.
like wildfire. Right, that's not a good example.
It's fucking the world is going under. Holy shit!
Oh no!
Oh shit! Oh shit!
It becomes popular. It becomes really popular.
Yeah. It just spreads. There you go.
Like a good handbag, you know, where you see one nice handbag, everyone wants the handbag.
Yes. Okay. Oh shit. That's fucking good, man.
But yeah, that's we kind of like completely went off topic. I apologize, Yamato.
No, that's good fun, man. It's good fun.
Meta's cool though.
It's fucking hot today, man, outside.
Bro, it's really hot.
I'm like this laughter that I just went through made me sweat. That's,
Yeah.
that's fucking rough. All right, we continue with best bot lane. You're gonna sit in the shadows.
Okay, yeah, I'm down. Yeah,
right,
this is a good one. I'm excited. Go for it.
This one. So for me, number 1 is JDG bot lane. Loken and Limao. How do you say his name? It's not Limao. Second, so when we look at bot lane, we talk about lane phase, we talk about champion pool, and we talk about overall impact into mid in the early game, and then of course team fighting. These are the categories that I'm looking at. Lumao. Second for me is Top Esports. Bot lane. Well, I can just remove bot lane. Top Esports, Jackie Love, and Yu Yanja. Third is a Genji Ruler Life. And this can be argued. This can definitely be argued. Like I can put this second, but I would not fucking move JDG, Loken, and Lumao. And then fourth would be Damwon. Like I can definitely go for this. Like I wouldn't mind this. I wouldn't mind this at all. Like this is off the cuff, guys. This is off the cuff. Because I agree that Yuyanja is just And then I think it's Deft Career. Whoever said Code JJ and Tactical, that is mighty. That's very tasty. Very, very tasty. Honorable mentions, I will put Huan Feng and Sword Art. I would put, honestly, Reckless Hilly. And
Handsome Vander, bro. Put him on there.
yeah, it's just weird because in my mind, you know, they kind of broke that spell for me this year with their performance against G2.
Wait, but they beat them 2v2.
Yeah. I was trying to think of how I should word this.
Okay.
I think when they were playing against the likes of Reckless Hilisang, it just, based off like all the best ones that they played, I always felt like it looked like they almost choked. And that portion of it makes me worried, you know, in the conversation of the top 5 that are here.
Sure.
I feel like they are in a very different class, but they could break out, you know, because I don't want to use them crushing G2's bot lane as like a great unit of measurement.
That's a great point. I will give you that one.
So what do you think, Brother Vedius?
I think it's really good. Agree with you on this. I actually think I would not change anyone.
What do you think about the conversation between top esports and Genji bot lane here?
I haven't watched enough Genji to say with confidence. That's kind of why, like, I was kind of like, I think from what I've seen, I would put Deft and Garrier probably above Ghost and Beryl, but that's also because I don't rate Ghost super highly as a bot laner.
Okay.
So the DRX bot lane would probably be higher for me.
Okay.
But I don't think it's unreasonable, you know.
What do you think about honorable mentions?
Yeah, the only other person I would put on there would be Hansam and Vander.
Okay.
But I think you also made a great point. Like, first time Reckless and Haley played against Hansam and Vander, I think there was a clear gap. But I also think that Rogue just played very poorly in that series. And
Yeah.
I felt like that they showcased much more of what they were capable of in the G2 series. But at the same time, I don't think Perks has had the best split. So
Yeah.
I think that's also a fair assessment to say that they, you know, it's not the best unit of measurement. And then I look at the other bot lanes, like, in together, and even then I would be like, yeah, Huan Feng Sword Art I would probably rate above those two, and I think that Reckless Hilly is very close. I would debate, because again, I would put Deft Carrier probably above Ghost Barrel, and then I'd be like, how close is Reckless Hilly to Ghost Barrel? You know? And I'd be like, is that a conversation you could have?
Yeah. Because it's weird because the series between DRX and Damwon, like DRX were getting really cucked in draft. Like it was
correct.
It was really, really like almost hard to watch. It was tough. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Vedius is with us. Can a mod put Vedius in all caps in the title? This is the Vedius show. This is the Vedius' list. Blame him. No, kidding.
Yeah, Number 1, Jurgsen. Vedius, what are you doing?
Holy. Right, LCK picking bands. I'm just gonna pull it up on the screen. So first game they get to play Jin Pyke versus Lux Caitlyn. Holy shit! And then they get to play Ezreal Sett versus Kalista Alistar, which is, you know, you can do some stuff with that, and they did until the point where they got Dove and you know, something happened. You know, if we made the drafting tier list, DRX would be very, very far down, honestly. And then the last game, they're playing Kalista Trash against Draven Pantheon. And that game, they played pretty decent. They played pretty decent, but at the same time, they had a Shen. And I don't know, like just these drafts from DRX are really... You can stab yourself in the eye over these drafts. Oof.
Yeah. So, yeah. But like that's also a thing, right? Champion pool, one of Perks is... I rated Perks very highly last year.
Yeah.
But it was also Kai'Sa Xayah meta, and he was insane Kai'Sa Xayah. But then when he had to play Ezreal, I don't think it's anywhere. His Ezreal has been as good, nor will it. Nor has it shown to be as close compared to what those two champions were. And I think that there are other players you can be like, okay, so they look really insane on these champions, but do they look good on every champion? And yeah, that wasn't quite the case.
I just pulled up my old list, and I had Perks 4th. Coming into
2.
I had Uzi 2nd, and then I put Doinby 3rd.
Yeah.
Which in hindsight was genius, but I think coming into the tournament that was a coin flip. Predicted that they would win. I put Tian and Crisp together on 10th. Yeah, I think my biggest mistake in that list was not putting Rookie, but Rookie had a very hard time that year.
Bro, I put Rookie super low on the list.
Yeah,
he was like 16 for me or something. And like it was really hard to justify Rookie because he was so coin flip.
Like they were fucking bleeding bad coming into the tournament, but in the tournament for sure, like I could make the argument that Rookie was the best mid laner, playing without a jungler and still doing crazy things.
Yeah, bot lane list I think is good.
Cool. That's nice. Very nice of you, Vedius, to be so nice to me.
Yeah, 80 carry list though, trash. I don't know what you're doing.
What did you say you would do? I don't remember.
I love your top 3. I think your top 3 is great. I would have put Jackula first, I think.
Okay.
But I think your list is super good, and I think it's very fair to sit there and say like these 3 are a cut above I think every other 80 carry.
Right.
I just think that when I look at 80 carries in isolation and in terms of like what they're working with, amount of resources that they get relative to their impact in the game, this obviously hasn't been a very 80 carry meta, but I think Reckless has just been so insane this split for me that I would put him above Ghost, because I think that he has been consistent even through his team looking very poor, and I think that he's just been extremely reliable. And I also think that he's picked up the meta champions very quickly and has been very reliable on them. So
completely fair.
Like I rate him as an individual very highly.
Me too. Like I think by far he was the best AD in Europe. Yeah, individually. I rate him very, very highly. Whenever I do on my channel, people say I'm licking his ass. So there's that.
Always will.
Because people like to say that he's a KDA player and that he farms, but it's not really his fault that his team sometimes insists on defending things that are clearly lost, like a mid turret that has a herald charging into it.
The mid turret, yes. Yeah, and then I think that when Hilly is on form, they become one of the best 2v2 bot lanes in the world. And I think so one of the things, I can speak very confidently on European teams, obviously, but I think one of the most impressive things is that Caps and Perks have consistently taken their teams, regardless of what teams they've been on, to great heights, right? And like Perks, in my opinion, one of his biggest achievements was
RNG?
when he took that G2 roster down, when they took RNG down with that roster. And it showcased what he as a player was capable of. And I think that Caps has showcased with back-to-back World Finals what he is also capable of as a player. And I think it's very easy to forget the reason why Fnatic stays so consistent for so long is largely because of how reliable Reckless is. And like people can call him like, he's definitely had splits where he's been stubborn, he's been bad, he's been whatever. But like, I don't know. I think that the reputation that the player has it should always be a positive one. And like, I still feel really upset that Fnatic lost the eventual world champions last year, because I would have loved to have seen them play a best of 5 against any other team.
They took a game off the back of Reckless and Hylissang fucking destroying.
Is that because I don't remember that series at all, I'll be honest.
That game, like there was one game where they got like Kaiser, and then that game was just a complete, like it was just destruction. They snowballed bot and then they won.
Right. Yeah, and right now it's on a bot lane meta, which obviously like hurts Fnatic a lot, because I think that you then have to rely on Nemesis and Whippo to be big carries, and while I think Whippo can have high highs, he also has very low lows, and Nemesis I just don't have a huge amount of faith in, given the champions that he's demonstrated he prioritizes. So that's my concern for Fnatic. And what I'd love is if we could go back to a bot lane meta, and then obviously he has some pretty stiff competition, because I think there are a lot of very good AD carries at this tournament. But yeah, that's why I think that I would put Reckless in my top 5. I rate him very highly.
Nelson. This is Nelson, the coach of LNG, I believe. Obviously, we are just judging based on what we see. Like some people are going to have, like I rate, like if you look at my list, Nelson, individually, there's very little Western players, and we scrimmed against Top Esports, we scrimmed against Suning, we scrimmed against all the top LCK teams, and it was easy for me to realize that individual like lane play was of high level, you know. So I don't think it's unfair for me to speak on the topic. After all, these lists are going to be biased with Nelson, and it just is what it is, you know. But yeah, I think on your notion about Reckless, I'm with you there. Like I think, like I put him in my honorable mention, and the only reason I put Perks is because there's been times where Perks has underperformed, but then he always shows up. Always shows up. Like even coming into the World Championship, like no one had any fucking expectations of that 2018 G2, and like that G2 roster was like a bit of a meme. Like they did well in the regional qualifier, but he was just ramping it up, and it's been the case for a lot of playoff performances for Perks too. And I think. Oh, okay, Nelson. I thought you were speaking against me. Sorry for misunderstanding. I appreciate the shout. Thank you. Sorry, I'm a bit defensive, you know, because the chat is very aggressive.
I mean, a lot of them want Bjergsen on the list, Yamato. I don't know if...
All right, man. Let's make a list for Bjergsen. Top Bjergsen at the tournament.
Yeah.
Number 1, Bjergsen. Number 2, Jensen. Now,
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah. Good list. I agree.
Oh, and now we're going to go into the dangerous lands of a top 10.
Oh, you're going top 10? Shit, man.
I'm doing a top 10. I'm going in.
I don't know if I have the expertise for that yet.
Okay. You can backseat me, man. Backseat me.
Okay.
This one, off the cuff.
Off the cuff? He's going off the cuff, chat.
Off the cuff.
He's going off the cuff.
A cappella, guys. All right. So number 1 for me is Knight. Number 2, I think with all the things we've spoken about some of these players, I don't think I need to repeat it, because I don't want to sound like a one-string banjo. Okay. Second, Chovy. Third, this is individual skill, okay? Individual skill, individual prowess, okay? Individual skill, when I think about individual skill, I'm thinking about how you view the map, how you recognize your role within the game, how you transition in every period of the game, how you side lane, how you lane, how you pick your champions, which with these criteria makes me want to move Chovy lower. Because here we are rating them as players, not as, you know, a mid laner, you know? Shit. It's
Go with your gut, fill it out, and then edit after, Yamato. Just fill it first, and then edit after.
Just fucking trust my gut. All right.
Yeah.
We're just throwing some stuff out there. Holy shit. I'm doing this without having the chat open, so we're just gonna put it out there. Holy shit. It's just I have to put zoom. Zoomy zoom. And then sucks to be a support, I guess. And then I will put something like this. And then I will stop. I'll put a stop point right here. Boom. What's his name? Boom. And then we hold. And then maybe 14 Wunder. Like that. Stop. Stop the press. Stop the press. We end it there.
Jacob, are you hungry?
I'm not hungry. Thank you very much, Enjo.
Remember, we have food in the fridge.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. All right. Vedius, are you with me?
Yeah, I'm here, Chief.
Your silence worries me.
Well, I mean, I wanted it's your gut, right? You know, like you'd probably, with a bit of thought, you'd probably make some edits here and there. So I wanted to give you that chance to, like, you know, are you happy with your list? Do you think you would change anything?
Ooh. I don't know. It's always, it just comes down to like what you are, like what roles you value higher, and naturally like mid laners.
For sure.
I think just mid laners are naturally better, and then I think AD carries are the next ones in line, because I think there's an argument to put them up there too. About that conversation over like why ruler is better than showmaker, like I don't have time for that fucking conversation.
Yeah, it's tough. It's always gonna be tough,
fucking
right?
Silly conversation. Like people are saying Nuguri, but Nuguri would probably be my 15th. Like that would be my 15th Nuguri.
I'm a little skeptical of Naguri. Like, I'm not entirely sure where the hype comes from.
He has very, like he has had some monster games that to the average eye, like holy shit, he's just shitting on them. You know, he's like playing Renekton and he's just solo killing, double killing the enemy jungler is just running at him or whatever, you know.
Right.
And those games stand out. But I'm also worried about Nuguri, and I feel very bad for him because of the whole collapsed lung business.
For sure, yeah.
And I think there's an argument to put 369 over Nuguri for sure.
Yeah.
And I think it's weird because sometimes I look at some players like how good would he be in a different setting, and I don't know if Nuguri could play the way he plays with other teammates. And at the same time, like how can I fucking blame him for playing the way he's playing because he has those teammates? So it's kind of like a weird conversation to have.
So one of my questions, right, like especially when I look at laners, is when a player is being aggro, why are they doing it, right? If they're shoving in a wave, if they're looking to go for like a bunch of early game trades, why are they doing it, right? And one of my issues with Naguri is he seems to often like push and trade without his jungler on his side of the map. It's like he just doesn't care, right? Whether his jungler is there or not, it just seems like a convenience to him. And he's like, oh, great, you're here? Nice. Or it's like, oh, you're not here? Okay, I died, no problem. I'll just come back to lane and I'll be fine. And so I don't know if that's just Naguri saying like, I don't care. Obviously, like I would only make a lot of assumptions, but when I watch him, and again, it's like very limited because a lot of my prep right now has been on LPL. So like my opinions are very biased in the same way that like you talk about like my limited information on Noguri is that I don't fully understand yet why he is rated so highly. I think I've seen a lot more from Zoom, 369, Wonder, the other top laners that you've talked about, that would put them in high regard for me personally. And so, like, maybe I just need to see more footage. Maybe there's something that I just don't see yet. Because, like, of course he's a talented player, right? Like, Damwon wouldn't be as good as they are without him. And last year, everyone rated him, including me, I think, rated him very highly coming into the tournament. So I just have a couple more questions around Noguri before I'm convinced that, like, at the moment he's 15, right? So it's not even a bad placement for him.
Yeah. Like, I don't want to put you on the spot. Like, I can completely appreciate that. I think, like, my opinion on Noguri is, like, I think the nature of top lane, like, the best top laners and the best supports are going to take a lot of risks, because you're playing with so little information most of the time, and both supports and top laners need to play in a way to create information. And sometimes, like, if you have a top laner that never dies, usually they are a tad bit worse. And this is what I appreciate about Bippo and Hilisang, is they are taking a lot of big risks, and sometimes they look incredibly stupid. It's like, why the fuck is he dying here? But in a lot of cases, when we have these players that are in the top teams, these are like calculated risks most of the time. Like, sure, there are some players that just fucking are full barbarian mode and put your head into the keyboard. There are players like that, but I think the roles just come with a little hint of int.
Right.
And that's why I've been an advocate for the Shy. Like, sometimes there are games that are unexcusable, like the one where he just is crit cannon. Like, sure, that's like what the fuck are you doing? But at the same time, like, everyone is so harsh on the Shy, but the man got back to back, top lane of the split. Like, the Shy, like, IG ended on a very, very high note in regular season. And even if the Shy was playing in this tournament, I swear to every single top laner in this tournament would look at the Shy or Zoom as like the benchmark of what they need to beat.
Damn. Fair.
Even though the Shy ran it down a couple of games. All of these top laners ran it down a couple of games.
Yeah, 100%. There's not a top laner that hasn't ran it down. Alfari may be the only one, and even then, I'm sure we can find a couple games.
Yeah, he ran it down when he really, really wanted to go to playoffs. Like, with the Camille game.
Yeah.
I was like, I need to fight. And then he just got, like, completely screwed over by the Bard portal.
Yep. Good point.
Well, yeah, that was a very, very different type of inting. It wasn't like lane inting. But yeah, I think Ella said Caps is in top 5 millions. What do you think about that? I think it can be argued. With the level of competition in the LEC, and the first time Caps was met with some competition, he got shocked, I feel. Because I think in that best of 5 against Rogue, if you evaluate the performance, I think there were games where Larson played better than Caps.
Yep.
And I think watching the LCK, I think the mid laners in the LCK, he said Caps himself wouldn't even rate himself top 7. I don't know about that. Like, that's kind of a weird comment to make. I don't know. But I guess it's very similar to what me saying about top laners thinking about the Shy. I think it's understandable.
I could see a world where you wouldn't rate Caps top 5 mid laners in the world.
Sorry? Like, you can't? Not?
No, I can see a world where you don't.
Yeah. I can definitely see that too.
I think the meta favors him a lot, which is like one of my big reasons for putting him up there. And I also just think that Caps is reaching a point where he seems very motivated, and he seems to only get better every event. So like that I'm willing to admit that there's probably a bit of blind bias in that I have just kind of have faith in him, You know, as someone that's casting for a long time, I think that I'm quite happy to admit that like there's going to be an element of the fact that I've seen and cast like his games for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
That element of bias where I'm like, I know what he's capable of. I think he can do it. I can definitely think that he can be a top 3 mid laner in the world. Like, there's obviously going to be that element of bias.
For sure. Yeah, for me too. Like I've been smacked around by Caps. I've been smacked around by a lot of these players. Honestly. I think what I value about Caps is just his ability to really see clearly what he needs to impact. I think the way he roams and the way he manages his lane in order to figure out what the true win condition of G2 is something that is super good. And we've seen this in many games where Caps takes over games, and that's not like you can win a game through the sheer force of laning, but I think you win more games by, you know, transitioning and understanding how you transition the pressure that you create and gain. And I think Caps does that super well.
Yeah. I think that's fair.
And at the same time, there's a world where he might not be able to do that against the top esports because the pieces on the map might be just that much better. But yeah.
We're not going to find out in group stages.
No.
I will say on your top 20 list, I think I would have junglers higher and AD carries lower. Personally.
Junglers higher?
I don't want to talk too much about top 20 because I plan to do one. But I would rate AD carries lower given the current meta and how it's not really a bot lane meta and how, you know, like it's very just straight up 2v2.
Fair.
And if we're to rate individual players, I think it's much harder to have as much skill expression on AD carries as it is in other roles. So I would rate junglers higher overall in the list than what you currently have.
Understandable, for sure. I get you completely. Yeah. I guess like it gets to the point where it depends on what wows you the most.
Yeah.
You know? Because it's like, even if I put fucking Ruler, Jackie Love, like as long as this order remains the same, then I can move them around, right?
Yes, I think that's the thing, right?
What the fuck? Like, Zoom against Ruler, like what the fuck? What does that even mean, right?
Correct. It's obviously that's the hardest thing about a top 20, right? Because you're comparing across roles now, and it's like, well, how do I define the criteria here? If I'm defining it for AD carries, it's much easier for me to sit there and say, oh, I think Ruler is better than Jacula for these reasons. How the fuck do I sit there and argue, well, Ruler is more impactful than Zoom because of, you know, Ruler doesn't play Gangplank, you know, and like, therefore, I don't know.
That's a good one. I just imagine in my mind Ruler playing Gangplank. Why isn't Jackie Love... So, guys, what is this the new copy pasta? Like, why is everyone spamming this? Why isn't Jackie Love number one? He's macro managing the whole team and is the leader of the team. Without him, they are trash. We see it with IG and Top Esport before Jackie joined. Huge joke by the analysts in these bunny ear things. I don't know what they're called.
Quotation marks.
Quotation marks. There you go. It's a good one. It's a good one. Okay, and now I guess the final one is the team ranking at the tournament.
Let's go. Do it.
All right.
This is my favorite one.
Oof. Also off the cuff.
Oh, he's going off the cuff this one too. Chat, you're getting all kinds of content from Yamato today. Holy moly.
The top Reddit wilderness. It's like, it would be funny if all the people that made lists after just sat down and had a conversation together. And I imagine that everyone would just agree with each other. Like everyone would just fucking agree. It's like, oh, you don't rate Caps highly on his laning phase ability, and that's why you don't rate him in top 5? Yeah, I understand that. Yeah. I'm with you. And then the chat is like, what? They're agreeing? Fuck, man. I can't clip this.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, TSM fourth in this group? Yeah, TSM fourth in this group. Yeah, sucks. That's yeah. Oh well. Okay. Number
Great,
one.
it is.
Number one for me is Top Esports. I think they have a very, very high ceiling. I think they are strong. They have very strong players just in the right place. I think Knight, Karsa, Jack Love are fantastic. I think their downfall could be Yuyanja. And that's like the question that we need to just, we need to explore. We need to see. We need to just see if that happens. I think there are things that they can improve on, but I think coming into the World Championship, they are very, very well equipped to win a World Championship. This is actually TSM, guys. I baited you all along. I was describing TSM. Bifrost will be the downfall of TSM. All right. Second place is Damwon. So I measure all teams. I measure all teams by many metrics. But the easiest way to explain it is that I found in the last weeks is just activity and precision. So there are teams that have a high level activity but very low precision, and those teams are just like, they're diving and then they int it and then they lose, right? So that could be like a Mad Lions, right? A very high level activity, and that's why the level of variance really, really changes, because Wayne Gretzky, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. You get me, right? And then sometimes that level of precision, let's say the precision is like 30%, 40%, sometimes the stars align and Mad Lions beat some of the best teams in Europe, right? So I measure teams by precision and activity. And when it comes to the team that is the most precise, I would say that's Damwon. I think they have a very, very good idea of how to win games. They don't need to brute force anything. They are not playing like barbarians. They are waiting for the right times, waiting for the right timings. Depending on the composition, they are very, very good at adapting. Like, I think the best of 5 against DRX was a beautiful, beautiful performance from, the standpoint of, the analytical mind. Because DRX, they tried to be sinners, and they tried to pick for lane phase sometimes, and they were trying to piece things together, and their drafts were honestly awful. So obviously Damwon were allowed to do so. But Damwon, even with a Draven Pantheon bot lane, they could play reserved. And that might seem very, very small to people, but to a lot of teams that is very, very difficult to do, to be reserved with a Pantheon Draven. And I think Damwon as a 5, they are very, very good at seeing what needs to be, the win condition on the map. And I think that's a massive strength. I think their level of activity is good, and I think their precision is super, super high. And I think Top Esports have a higher level of activity, but the precision is, lower than Damwon, But Top Esports have that power in both Jakilov and Knight. There's like a school of players. There's like a school of players that can pull out wins out of a fucking rabbit's hat. And Jakilov is this type of player. And also Knight is this type of player. They are just really, really strong individuals. Very, very strong individual players. And that wins championships. Damwon has a very good idea. They just overextend at top lane every time, and G2 abused them hard, but nobody mentioned it. Nice try, put them above G2, Asian bias as usual. I don't know if that's troll, because you're in the mindset that this is the same team as last year. So how do you rate Top Esports and JDG then? Well, Top Esports and JDG weren't at Worlds last year, so they can't even place in this tournament, right? By that logic, they weren't at the tournament last year, so obviously they're going to be bad. Holy moly. Alright. Third, JDG. Oi. Thank you for the subscription. Thank you, Dehesa. Dehesa. Thank you, Dehesa. Thank you, Dehesa. The key thing here is, you know, I think Top Esports, there is growth in a tournament. There's always growth in a tournament. FPX won the World Championship, but in group stage, they looked awful. LWX looked like he was on drugs sometimes, right? They looked awful in groups. Keep in mind, in this judgment, progression within the tournament really, really matters. I think JDG are very, very well suited for this meta, this current meta. I think they are very, very well equipped to play around Kanavi. I think they are very good at playing around, you know, with the Lydia picks, with the Nidalee picks, and the Graves picks. Throughout the regular split, they were incredible, really, really incredible. And I think definitely it is a team to look out for. I worry though because of the level of Yagao, and that's not saying Yagao is bad. That's just not saying Yagao is bad. I don't think Yagao is as good as a knight and a showmaker. Thank you very much for subscribing. I really, really appreciate it. It's super, super appreciated. Thank you very much. Oh, the cat jam with the trumpet, that's pretty cute. That's very cute. Fourth. Apparently you don't even think Yagao is top 15 players, but look at the top 15 players. You think not being in this top 15 is rude? Oh, thank you very much for the 5 gifted sub. Thank you, Dehesa. That's very, very nice of you. That's crazy. PogChamp. Pog. Thank you. Thank you. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you, Opti Time Rant. Wow, you guys are too nice, man. You guys are too nice. You guys are too nice. I'm gonna be able to buy a new hoodie soon. I don't have to wear this one. I can buy a new cap. Thank you very much, guys. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you. I swear she was not 16. Oh, Jesus. What kind of a fucking name is that? Thank you for subscribing. My goodness. Naha, 1, 2, 3. Thank you so much for subbing. Well, so the thing is, not being in this top 15 doesn't mean you're terrible. Like, look at the players that are in this top 15. These are some hard hitters, man. Very, very hard hitters. Thank you so much for subscribing, Nahaha. Alright. Alright. Fourth. This is where it gets murky, guys. Thank you, Poop Sausages. Thank you, NX Super. For me, it has to be G2 with a star. Shanti is just great, guys. Respect. So the reason I put G2 fourth with a star is G2 have the capacity for greatness. You know, this tournament, within the tournament, group stage might look iffy, but they're going to get better and better. The reason I put a star here is because I have a worry that freaking this bootcamp is just not going to do them any good. That worries me. I like Yamato, but when you're putting Caps third and not putting Bjergsen above that when he's like Caps but a more consistent and stable player is honestly mind-boggling me. Yeah. So the issue with G2 is looking at this bootcamp. Like they came in, their whole plan was to ramp up and peak at the World Championship. This was their plan coming into this year. Last year they had the issue of scrimming in Europe. They were bootcamping. They were practicing against Team Liquid and other European teams. The Asian teams landed, and all of a sudden they were like, "Holy shit, we need to relearn the game." Right? So that was like something that needed to, level up. You know, that was something that needed to level up, and I think this year they're bootcamping. They're bootcamping now, and what kind of a fucking bootcamp is this? They are in bubbles. They're apart. Like this is hard to prepare for, and we don't know how G2 is going to react to that. They might react fantastic. They might react great. Like I'm sure like a Caps in bootcamp, like being in quarantine, he's just fucking destroying solo queue. He's enjoying some cup of noodles. I'm sure he's gonna do fucking fantastic. But it always differs from people to people. And after G2's finals, we knew that G2 had some things to fix. We can trust them to fix that. But now in the current things, like in the current scene of things, I'm worried. Caps is already challenged on Super Server. There you go, right? I think G2 are very intelligent when it comes to the game. I think sometimes they make a lot of silly mistakes, which I think they can't get away with against the teams that are above them. I think they are very good at figuring out how to draft. I'm hoping that we get to see a different perks than we've seen in the regular split, because they will need that in order to justify this fourth place spot that I put them on. It's harder for me to rate Mickey, but Mickey also made a lot of blunders in lane where he just died when he wasn't supposed to die. Thank you very much for your subscriptions, guys. I truly, truly appreciate it. So G2 second. Like this world is weird. This world is very weird. Like I put a disclaimer at the beginning of the show that this world, first of all, the patch is not out yet. I understand that Mark Yetter tweeted some stuff out, but it's not official. It's not official yet, so we don't know the patch. That is a bit iffy, right? Until it's solid, that's what I'm going to trust. Like if I am a coach of a team and sure I read the suggested changes, I can understand that. You know, I can look in that and be like, okay, we put it in mind. But it's not solid, right? It's not in stone. And that matters. And then you have the second thing. This is such a strange world championship with the COVID. There's no crowd and everything is different. This is the year where things for analysts are gonna go very, very wrong. You know, I think a lot of the things that have been mentioned here can be wrong. Can be wrong. Wunder and Nuguri over 369 is odd. Okay, I think that's reasonable. That's not a bad take. Like if I put 369 over them, I don't think anyone would bat an eye. I think that's completely understandable. I think that's all right. I would put Gen G5. The reason I put Gen 5 is I think they have a lot of good individual pieces. I think Klid can play the jungle meta. You know, he can play the jungle meta well, but that's the only piece of this puzzle that worries me. Klid's consistency. I think BDD is really, really good. I think he's underrated. I think their bot lane is really, really good. And I think Rascal is very, very solid. He can play the Orns, he can play the so forth. He can play many different styles. I think Rascal is solid. He's not going to be a Zoom, but he's going to be solid. And I have very high expectations of a ruler. Very, very high expectations of ruler. Thank you very much, Captain Goldfish, Fool Me, 36, and Iki for your subscriptions. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Welcome to the channel, guys. BDD is Azir one trick. I disagree. And it was also weird because Genji had some struggles with their coach, and that's like weird. I think there's a world where Genji really like just mess up draft, and then it's like, what on earth are we doing here, right? And the same thing can be said for DRX. I think draft for a lot of these teams, a big part of why G2 is so high, I just feel like draft-wise they can figure stuff out, you know. And then some of the other teams, I worry because of what they've been doing historically, you know. Anyway, we continue to number 6. So number 6 is a bit of a flipper. I think it's a bit of a flipper. I think it's a bit of a flipper because I think SNG belongs here. I think SNG is a bit of a dark horse. I think they're definitely a bit of a dark horse. Only SN, okay. They have some players that can do super well. If you look at the roster, you know, I think, you know, Huanfeng, Sword Art, you have Angel, SoFM, you have Bean. A lot of fucking talent there. A lot of fucking talent. High highs, low lows. So I'm excited about this team. I'm excited about this team. Suning lost to Fnatic in scrims, just saying. Yeah, Suning is, you know, first of all, taking scrims into consideration is fucking troll. Second, Fnatic would just, Fnatic in that game played like their Exodia draft, okay? they went all out, you know? They went all out. How willing are you to place your bet that the winner is going to be one of the top 4 teams? I'm very willing. I think yeah, put money on that shit. These top 4 teams, one of them is going to win Worlds. And they are rated by what I think the odds are. And now, like, the rest of it is going to be very, very murky. This is Murk City, guys, here. Right now, the rest of it is very cocktail. Very, very cocktail. Like, it started to get cocktail here already, let's be honest. It started to get cocktail here already. I personally I'm leaning towards here. With a little star. With a little star. Can anyone guess what the star means? Can anyone guess what the star means?
Yo, Yamato, I just want to say mad fucking respect.
Do you know what the star means, Vedius?
I'm gonna assume it depends on the meta.
I'm just gonna say what you want to say. It's about Finn. I'm sorry, Finn. I'm sorry, Finn, but you're a reasonable man. I spoke to you at Euphoria. You know, we are on good terms, but your performance in playoffs left a lot to desire. And that is the biggest worry for me. Because I am in the mindset that I think Rogue, with the approach that they had, coming into playoffs and how they tried to expand on their play, I think this is a team that can definitely do well. I think if somehow they can mask the fact that Finn is not that great, I think, they can get it done. I think their 2v2 is good. I think it's solid. I think their bot lane is very solid. I think they are very precise as a team. They're way more precise than Fnatic and G2. Obviously, you must hate Fnatic that much for putting Rogue over them. Guys, think of it like this. You know, let's put it in P-Brain terms. You have 2 best of 5s that G2 got to play. G2 played one against Rogue, and then the next day against Fnatic. Fnatic got to watch G2 play 5 straight games. Rogue was very close to winning that best of 5. Yeah? And G2, sure, 3-0 doesn't do justice because it was very close. Fnatic could have probably got games. But I think Rogue, if Finn had a better performance, I think probably they would have gone to this tournament as the first seed.
For the record, I agree with Yamato.
Thank you, Vedius.
Because right now, the only thing I would say is I would actually put Rogue above Suning. And like the thing is, I understand why you give G2 what you did, and obviously they did beat Rogue, but like a lot of people, I think the problem is the only evidence we have of Fnatic versus Rogue was the 3-0.
Yeah.
And then Rogue changed a lot. And then yeah, like obviously a lot of the chat is like, what about DRX? Like, yeah, for sure. I think
the problem with DRX is I have very little faith in them figuring out how to draft. Individually, I think they are better than DRX, for sure.
Wait,
but
you
honestly,
mean DRX is better than Rogue?
Yeah. I think individually they are better. If they had to like play 1v1 and 2v2 against each other, I would lean towards DRX always. But this DRX is the type of team to just fucking shoot themselves in the foot. And it's not, you guys shouldn't blame CV Max. It's a team thing. We don't know how that team works. Sometimes CV Max, sometimes DRX drafts with genius. They're like Morgana mid against TF, Ezreal Karma, and you're like, what the fuck is this? And then you realize coming into the game that the enemy team actually has no way of beating it.
I think a best of 5 between Fnatic and Rogue would have been really interesting. And I think Yamato makes a great point. I think Rogue and Fnatic are a lot closer than people think.
Yeah,
I think that if Rogue was in that group with Gen G and TSM, I'm more confident that they get out of that group than I am Fnatic.
I think my prediction was that Fnatic gets out of that group, but contingent on the fact that LGD has to play play-ins, and also that Fnatic, usually coming into tournaments, often they figure out how they want to play, and they have a lot of key pieces, that makes their way of playing work, and then with time the right bands land, and then it kind of falls apart.
Yeah.
And I think in best of ones and in group stage, I think that's very good for Fnatic. I think Fnatic definitely, I put them second for this reason. But in best of fives, maybe dangerous, But Rogue is also in a very, very terrible group. Like there's a world now. GGG and Damwon just puts him in the grave, and that's it. And then at this list,
it is very unfortunate that they have 2 and 3, or at least the top 3 teams expected, both in the same group.
Yeah.
I think it's very difficult for them to get out. But I said exactly the same thing about Vitality in their group of death. What was it, 2 years ago, Yamato?
Yeah, and we didn't get out.
You were one tiebreaker away, though. One tiebreaker.
I can't believe we lost against C9 twice. We were so far ahead, man. Oh, Jesus. I'm going to take that to my...
I'll never forget the Trundle. Was it level 2 Trundle invade? Was that the play?
Well, that was like... We invaded level 1, we stole enemy red, and then he chased after the Nocturne that was level 1, and he could have just waited. Yeah, C9 is just better, man. Reaper banged me,
That
guys.
was to Zillion as well, wasn't it? The NA Classic.
And people were like, why didn't you ban Zillion? I was like, bro, Echo hard counters Zillion. But I forgot to tell Jizuke to go phase rush.
Yeah.
That's the count. Well, yeah. Like, yeah.
Anyway, continue with your list, Yamato. Continue with your list.
Okay. As I mentioned, like after 5, I think it gets murky. Okay, very murky. It gets murky. Here I wanted to put DRX. And then 9th, it's... So this can be switched. Like honestly, anything beyond this point is tough. Like every team is dealing with their own demons, They are dealing with their own demons. I can see a world where Fnatic can take games of DRX. I can see a world where DRX, like, Chovy just manhandles Nemesis and puts him 5 feet under, I just, when it comes to Fnatic, I think they are very, very, like, their issues coming into this tournament is their mid 2v2 is not that great. Their overall team play in a lot of cases is struggling. I think they are very good at playing into bottom side, and I think they can play into bottom, but then you have a team that is very reliant on certain picks. You have a team that is reliant on certain picks. And I think to go deep into a tournament, that is super, super important. I think mid lane is a very, very important role. Super, super important. And like my biggest worry about DRX, like if someone told me DRX are gonna have great drafts, I'll fucking put them up here. 4. If DRX have good drafts, I'll put them here on 4. I'll put them above G2. But I can't trust that. I just can't. I'm a LCK fan and I can't understand why DRX versus Genji. Like, even though Genji won, I think Genji showed a high level of consistency, and I appreciate that coming into the tournament. No, not CV Max's fault, really. It's just, for example, look at the finals. Look at the finals. I'm gonna show you guys this one final time. So, we can't blame any specific person. It's just DRX as a whole. So okay, so we give up Caitlyn after Ashban. Big mistake. Okay, they paid for it. And then they went Jin Pike, and they paid for it dearly. Okay? They went Renekton third, and Ornn was not banned. They banned Hecarim, Zoe, okay, and they went Akali. This game, Akali did well in the matchup against Syndra. That was cool. But this game was not winnable due to draft. Not winnable. Next game, it was honestly a very similar story. A very similar story. This time around, they could fight back a little bit more because they had a strong 2v2. They had a good 2v2, which was nice, right? They had a strong 2v2, but they couldn't really piece it together. They couldn't really piece it together within the game, and that one showed a higher level of clarity, and they just killed Volibear over and over, and then eventually they transitioned into bottom side, Kalista Alistar at 6. Kalista Alistar just kind of counters this composition. Like, enemy has Jace, Volibear, and Set playing against Kalista Alistar is very, very hard. Next thing in line is this final game, where they picked Irelia into Renekton, Pantheon, Nidalee. But DRX win Genji all game in summer. Well, that's... keep in mind, this is measuring the team. This is measuring the team against the whole competition. And I think, honestly, DRX is their own biggest enemy. DRX is their own biggest enemy.
Is it cool if I
Go,
jump in?
hop in, bro.
So, I think one of the interesting things about Korean teams is they have historically done very well in groups. I think Genji was the only exception back in 2018.
Yeah.
But one of the things about LCK teams is they seem to, like, in best of ones is where you actually see some of the best play from LCK, because they can just rely a lot on their individual talent. You don't normally see a bunch of crazy stuff in group stages, especially during the first week, because everyone's like, okay, we have a good idea of what the meta is. Some teams get really unlucky, pick bad stuff, and they have to adapt for week 2.
Yeah.
But LCK, because of the caliber of their individuals, tend to come in with like a very well-rounded draft, and then they just do pretty well, you know, in group stages. And then best of fives, at least in recent history, is where they've been heavily exposed, because when you target ban, when you force them to go like deeper, when you get that little bit of extra like innovation, that's where they've shown to struggle more. And so it wouldn't surprise me if, as Yamato said, DRX came in and like they went like they took a game off top esports, they went 5-1 in their group, and everyone's like, wow, DRX looks insane. And then they go into best of 5, and then they do the Griffin Classic, and then they throw 3-0 to whoever they play against because they can't draft properly. And like, yeah, it's fascinating, because I think one of the biggest problems for the LCK for the last 2 years has been when it comes to the best of 5s. SKT made semifinals, and in the very close best of 5 against G2, I don't know if they lost the draft, but they definitely couldn't quite keep up with G2 at MSI, especially with things like the Pike and the Syndra bot. Then there was Worlds last year, where again, like, a lot of question marks around the drafting of SKT. There were question marks around the Griffin series against IG. Then Damwon, like, they did a lot of the Kale Kai'Sa, I think, from what I recall of that series.
Yeah.
And then they got heavily punished for that because they had no agency in the early game. And like, so group stages is not really where I get worried about. As a European, I'd be worried about the LCK teams. But in best of 5s is where, at least in recent history, is where they've showcased the struggles. And this is why, like, it's been really interesting, because a lot of at least fans in this chat, from what I've read, is just like, how can you rate so many of these LCK players so highly when like internationally they've done so poorly? And again, it's because LCK have never really struggled when it comes to talent. They've struggled more due to other things outside of actually the talent itself when it comes to international competition.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think, like, looking at the players that DRX have, considering Korea, Chovy, and Deft, I think they have the ability to contest for top 4. But there's too many question marks. I think the and those are definitely solvable. Like a lot of the question marks that these teams have can be solvable. Like let's say Finn boot camps and all of a sudden he's fucking in form. Let's say that fucking happens. All of a sudden this it doesn't look too shabby that they're 7th, right? And it's all a question of fucking what are the problems and how reasonable are they that they are fixable, or how important are they? And I think, like, another argument for G2 is, I think when you can define teams easily in a couple of words, I think that's when they do the best. And I think looking at the gauntlet that they ran through, like last year when they, of course, had Griffin in groups, like I think Griffin was potentially like the 3rd best or maybe 2nd best team at the tournament. I think just IG and Griffin, like them running into each other, was just unlucky. Nevertheless, the way they played against Damwon was, the enemy team, they are very bad at playing 2v2 mid. They are covering for their bottom side always, and they rely on Kai'Sa. I'm going to, as Wunder, he's like, okay, I'm just going to pick Jace against Nukuri every time, and that counters his entire champion pool. And I'm going to hold him down, and then Caps is just going to pick a pushing matchup mid, because Showmaker only played 1v1 at the time. Showmaker was basically Chovy last year.
Yeah, he was. What he played like Galio every game, didn't he?
Like he was Chovy last year. He was like the mechanical god that is so fucking good at lane phase. But then there was no interaction at all between him and Canyon, which they changed completely coming into this year. But then the G2, like, you could put what Damwon was in a couple of words. Okay, Nuguri and Showmaker needs to carry. They play Klepto. They want to carry. Okay, this is how we deal with it. SKT was like, yeah, we are very good at stabilizing the game and reaching the point where we just outscale. So we're just going to make sure that we outscale even though we pick worse matchups. And that fucking worked super well. And then...
bro, it was the Caps Rise meta.
Yeah. But that shit was banned a lot, no? That World Championship.
So it was. So in game 1, Showmaker got LeBlanc versus Caps' Syndra. And then I seem to remember that the LeBlanc didn't do anything.
Yeah. Because naturally, like, Syndra wins 1v1. It's like, you need to have jungle pressure, and Canyon just...
but G2 got Zyra Khan bot.
Yeah.
And then Damwon won game 2 when they had the Rise mid. And then in game 3, Caps got Rise. And then in game 4, they first picked Rise.
And then they gave Rise to top, and they countered with Irelia, and there was Yasuo versus Kayle, and he did something I've never seen. Caps was just using Yasuo's OP spells to just push and go top, which is silly.
Yes.
But it worked.
He never laned versus Showmaker. He was just like, see ya. I remember that was the game where the Irelia just like kept permit. He died like 3 times, 5 minutes, right?
Yeah, the Irelia kept dying, but was still stronger than Rise because of how, like, polarizing the matchup was.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember.
So DRX, if stars align for them, they are a contender. If there's just too many stars in this constellation.
It's not super fascinating about this. I felt like last Worlds, it was really predictable. We very clearly knew who the top 3 were. And I suppose I think we're all pretty confident in who the top 3 are this year. Then everything after the top 3, like, was very debatable. You could kind of move people around pretty much everywhere. And it feels like we have a lot of strong teams just underneath the top 3 as well, which is very interesting. I'm excited, dude. I really think Rogue can upset some people. I think they're going to upset someone.
Yeah, I think they have good good fundamentals. I think their level of precision was very good. Like when they get ahead, they seem to stay ahead. They don't fucking do crazy dumb shit like G2 and Fnatic did, which is a strength, right? And they're
Sure.
trying to raise their level of activity, and I think them showing me that made me hopeful for the Worlds run.
Yeah.
And then some of the things I've been seeing on Twitter on how they're dealing with the quarantine, they're like exercising together on Zoom. Those things, those small things matter. Not that I put it in the estimation of this, but it is good to see, right?
You really put TSM underneath Mad? You just gonna do him like that?
It's weird. I don't know. Like I reviewed some of the FlyQuest CSM games like very thoroughly, and I think there is a lot of problems. Like, and I don't mean to like jump on the bandwagon of like hating on NA. It really isn't. Really isn't it. But
I have not reviewed any NA yet, so I have no opinions of TSM. So I was surprised, because one of my biggest concerns for NA was that they will, as much as I wanted TSM versus Rogue, it's got to feel bad if Rogue beats you, your first seed, as the third seed, right? Like that's got to feel bad.
yeah.
So if Mad were to beat TSM, which they can't obviously because they're not in the same group, like that would feel really horrible.
I think there's a good chance for TSM to beat them, but I think it's more about Mad Lions' performance more than anything else.
Because Mad definitely towards like week 8, week 9, they definitely really started to struggle.
Yeah. Like the last weeks of play for Mad Lions were very piss poor.
Yep.
It's like people are upset that I put TSM on 12. It's like, why the fuck is TSM even on this list? Like, we're running out of teams, guys.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Like, we're running out of teams.
There's only 16 in the group stage. Yeah.
like when someone was really, really upset about it, they don't even have to be on this list. You know?
He's got 4 teams left to pick from, guys. And 4 of them aren't actually qualified. Well, Mad hasn't qualified for groups yet. The only team he's left off was Machi.
And
no, wait, you also missed off FlyQuest. FlyQuest is not there either.
Team Liquid and FlyQuest. Yeah. So it's like, guys, keep in mind, I said at the beginning of the show, why am I calling it show? It sounds at the beginning of the fucking stream. I said that I don't know much about the PCS teams, and I don't know much about the play-in teams. So I just slotted in the first seeds. You know, I slotted in the first seeds. There's a world where my obliviousness to Machi, like maybe they win the world championship, but I'll tell you that after I've reviewed them. But I don't know anything about them. Nothing. I don't know nothing.
It's an interesting list. Personally, it's interesting that you think Suning is a dark horse. I don't at all. I think so. I'd say that I think they're overhyped, but I actually don't think it's the LPL community that's overhyping them. From what I've read, a lot of the LPL, like the people that actively follow LPL, are like TS, JDG, by far and away our best team. Then it's Suning, who's our next best, and then there's a gap again between them and
Yes.
And so I think Suning is like a very solid team, but I definitely don't think they're like god tier. So
it's funny. It's funny because everyone says like, "Oh, LCK is so top heavy. Europe is so top heavy." LPL is also very top heavy.
Yeah,
super top heavy. Like the gap between, as you mentioned, like the gap between JDG toppies with Suning is fucking large. But the same thing for Suning and LGD. Like that's also fucking large.
Yeah. And right now, if you were to just base it off the playoffs, I think the gap between Rogue and Mad would also be considered very large. I mean, especially seeing as Rogue just straight up 3-0'd Mad. But like, obviously, there's that small caveat because Shadow played absolutely horribly. But yeah, it's there's a pretty big gap.
I feel like Shadow needs to just look at SoFM votes and do the same. I think at this point that's like the only hope, because I think trying to catch up, like sure, it's his fucking rookie year, so he can, but I felt like his way of playing and approaching the game after like the Olaf and the Lee Sin and the Jarvans were out of the meta, that also put Shadow out of the meta. But we'll see. Like I don't think we should not like have some expectations of Shadow, because I think, you know, mechanically he's super good, and that's like a good benchmark for like, oh, he can figure some shit out. But his pathing was never good. But on these champions it just didn't matter as much as it does now. Like if you path bad once with Graves, you're like, oh, sorry guys, we're gonna lose this game. It's very rough.
So interesting. This world is going to be so interesting for so many reasons. Crazy,
sure.
man. Oof. I hope G2 don't suck, man. I hope G2 don't suck.
I think in groups they will, honestly.
Yeah, I'm worried that they will. Yeah.
I think in groups they will, and I think they're gonna like get by, you know, bleeding, like drop a game to Machi.
Yeah.
And then in best of five, it's like, oh, okay, all right, baby. Oh, look at you. Then we get overhyped, and then they're in the finals, they get 3-0'd again. That's just...
Yeah, G2's going to get like a lucky where like JDG and Top are going to meet in the semifinals, and G2's going to be like, whew, dodge that bullet, and then...
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, I know G2 bootcamped in Europe last year, but they're bootcamping in a bubble this year. So I don't know, I don't know how much... I don't know, man. I really don't know.
So I will say, like, so Perks did an interview on PGL, and he said that he doesn't think that like any team is like god status where they're flawless everywhere. And I really agree with him.
I agree too.
Because I think like Top, in my opinion, their weaknesses, and I was talking about this with Ender, sometimes they go for too much at once. Like if they can do Drake, they'll be like, oh, we'll take top tower and we'll take bot tower and Drake at the same time. Right?
Yeah.
And then they get punished for it. They're like, oh, okay, we need to reset it. Oh, I can take this jungle camp. It's fine. And then they get punished for it. There are windows where you can punish Top, and sometimes they do really random stuff where they like make big mistakes. And games that should be clean stomps, they like, there's flaws. And I think for JDG, they also have their own fair share of flaws. I wrote them down, but I can't remember what they are. And I haven't studied Down One enough yet. And I think the problem is there's not enough footage of Down One properly being challenged that I can clearly identify their flaws, which is why for me Down One's actually the favorites for the tournament. But even though these teams have flaws, I don't think they're as egregious as G2's flaws, which is why I agree with Yamato that G2 is definitely not in the conversation for the top 3 right now. But it didn't feel like last year where I felt like FPX, G2, and SKT, when they all played at their peak, were all really, really insane teams.
Yes.
So I think that there's a lot of volatility this world.
Yeah. It's such a weird situation. Like it's absolutely wild. It's going to be super volatile for sure. I think it's hard to predict. Like even things like Nuguri's collapsed lung, like that's messed up. Like we don't fucking know what kind of effect that has.
I was so worried about him still like saying like, yeah, I can just travel, and like a week later, I'm like, really?
we should call up Medicus. Like, is that okay?
Yeah. It's scary, man. I hope he's okay, because like I know that Damwon as well. Like after last year, they really want to perform well after losing to G2, and like you can clearly see that they've improved so much. And I just hope that Noguri is fine and that they can still play at their best.
Yeah. I really, really hope so too. This world's. I just wanted to start. We're so far away, actually. Like
next
time
week.
is.
We're gonna start next week.
In 10 days, no?
No, it's next week. 25th.
10 days.
Okay,
We're 15th.
It's next week.
It is next week, yes. But next week in my ear sounds like 1 week, you know?
Yeah. Fair. Anyway,
Yes.
Yamato, this has been a lot of fun. We're playing Among Us in 45 minutes. You're in, right?
All right.
8 o'clock.
I might check it out. Is it streamed or not streamed?
I think Ifia is streaming, so you can probably stream it.
Okay. That sounds like good fun. I will come along. I'm sure You're not gonna have like your battle station filled with all the streams open. It's like, Yamato's an imposter.
Yeah.
Calling a meeting right away. Like
Yeah.
the shit Deppa pulled on me. Like I was like, it was so fucking random. Because it was genius. Because he was right. But the reason I was clicking around was because I had the wrong settings. Like I usually play with keyboard, and then I had mouse on, and it was just silly.
Guys, Yamato was literally standing there. He was looking at the map. He was the imposter, and he was just looking at the map, and he was like, "Okay, let me just sort everything out. We're in game now." And then because he didn't do keys, from this like Yamato didn't do keys, and Yamato's like, "Wait a minute," and he didn't even get a chance to speak. He didn't say anything. We all just insta voted him out.
Yeah, I couldn't even defend myself.
Yeah.
And then I just left with a bit of mystery. It's like, yeah, you guys are gonna regret this because we don't show if someone the poster gets
So 8 o'clock, people are gonna start like booting up at 10 to 8. So if you want to join us, just come along.
Sounds good.
All right,
Nice.
catch you later, Yamato.
Catch
Thanks
you
for the
later,
chat.
man.
It's actually been super good.
No, thank you for joining. I think this was a lot better. Honestly, when you were in the crowd of like in the Twitch chat, I was aggro, you know.
Yeah.
like when you're in the sea of the comments, I was like, you know.
Yeah.
Because at that point in time, like my mood, I think everyone's mood kind of shifts depending on where like the comments are heading. It's like
That's
something
fair,
you
dude.
need
That's
to.
fair.
Like
No,
I'm
I
not used to
appreciate
having 3K people here, so I
No,
apologize
that's fair,
for
man.
biting
That's fair.
back.
You had 4. Like, you only had 5 earlier, bro.
Yeah, that was fucking wild. Like this is not. Like,
Guys,
it's
remember to
fucking-
sub to Yamato. Like, if you got that free Twitch Prime, like Yamato is a struggling LCK coach right now. He's
Yes.
trying to make it big.
No world.
So send him your love, send him your support. Make sure you sub, and he's gonna play some Among Us with the squad later. So I'll catch you later, my man.
Thank you very much, Vedius. All the best, brother. Good to have. Good to speak to you. All right, let's make a little scroll through. So, short summary. This 3. Oh, thank you very much for subscribing, guys. AK0700. Theyo led. Thank you very much for subscribing too. So the idea of this list is you know, if we look at it, is the top 3. I think is very, very cemented for me. These are the top 3, and then everything else can be argued. Right, the same thing here. Top 3 is cemented. Everything else can be argued. And I've made my arguments, and I understand people wanting to place other players. Here also very difficult. I think Lumao and Beryl are a step above. And then, hey, what do you think of my latest donation? Send it again so I can see it. Live Korea, Yulanja, these are all you know, players that are good. You know, JDG, Zoom here as well. 369 could move up, could move down. You know, it's tough. It's very tough. These lists are very, very, very tough to do. Like if I have to fill this, I would put, you know, my hope is that Korea performs well. I will probably put Mad Kaiser here, and then maybe like Life, Genji Life or Sword Art. You know, Sword Art. You know, it's very tough, honestly, very hard. I don't know, but you get my point. You get my point. Yeah, like these players all have their own issues, right? Like maybe Doran shouldn't be there. Like that's a fair point. Like it's just tough. Here the same thing. Like we have a clear school of mid laners here, and my criteria is not only lane phase. Other people are going to have different criteria, and people are raising the point of LS. Like for LS, Caps is not top 5. In terms of 1v1 tournament, I would agree. But in terms of overall, what a mid lane encompasses, like what it really encompasses, I value Caps highly. And my worry about Caps is the first time he played against a mid laner all year long that had some kind of level of resistance was Rogue in that best of 5, and that was a bit of a shocker for Caps. Ellis is Korean fanboy. I don't think you should do that. Like, there's no reason to do that. Ellis was talking about a list including Rookie and stuff. Yeah, okay. Like there was a lot of good mid laners that didn't get to What do you think of Whippo and Nemesis role swapping? I think it would be good because of Whippo and Haley's synergy and Whippo being more aggressive. Whoa. That is wild. I think no. Nevertheless, I think these are the most complete players. And then BDD. BDD lane phase is very strong. Maybe BDD lane phase is better than Caps. Best to be 2 mids. I put Knight Casa, Showmaker Canyon, Kanavi Agao. It's just that people have to realize when you're putting a lot of your effort into figuring out how to coordinate with your support and with your jungler, that is going to, in a lot of cases, downplay your individual level. That's why, you know, Chovy individually is really, really strong. But at the same time, DRX doesn't have that much activity around the mid lane, right, in comparison to some of these other teams, right? Best bot lane, I think Loken Lumao, I think very, very strong. I think Loken is underrated. Ruler Live, Jackie loves Jujanja. I think this can be, you know, this is just a question of what you enjoy more, you know? This is a question of what you are looking at more from your AD and your bot lane. I don't think, guys, I really don't appreciate when people come in here and just talk poorly and bad about other people, especially when they can't defend themselves. I don't want people to come in here and talk about, you know, LS and his opinions and pretend like you are in any position to, you know, if you're in any position to, you know, speak for him. You're not allowed to do that. Like, you sure you can, but I will not respect you for it, you know? Ghost and Barrel, I enjoy a lot too. Like it's just some qualities that I really enjoy when it comes to a bot lane. Barrel and Ghost impress me a lot. That's why they're here. Deft and Korea, it's like my hope is that they are going to do super well. Yeah, here I legit put Chovy. Like that was a joke from before. I'm not gonna upload this on Twitter. Like, I think there's no point to put that conversation on Twitter. I really, because like, I don't think there's a reason to put it on Twitter, because it's going to be without the explanations, and the people that are on Twitter are not the ones that are watching the stream, right? So yeah. Best collective regional representatives by position. ADC's LEC? Is that because they have one more, or I have to disagree with this one. I think top LPL, I agree. Jungle LPL, I agree. I think AD carry LPL too. And then supports, I would say LCK, and then mid LCK. Mid, I agree. LCK mid for sure. The actual hot take is that this is the weakest selection of ADC talent that LPL has ever sent. Okay. Okay. Very spicy. I have a great deal of respect for Froscoren's opinions. That's the beauty of opinions, right? You justify them, you speak about them, and always when Froscoren elaborates, I'm like, yeah, that makes a great deal of sense. And that is something that I can't always say, you know? To be fair, last year at Worlds, Jackie Love, Uzi I, LWX. LWX won Worlds, and Jackie Love, Uzi I speak for themselves. That's fair. I think Juan Feng, I think Kramer kind of drags down LPL on the topic of ADCs, but I speedran it already on Yoz EU. I'm going to upload the VOD on YouTube, and that's it. It's going to be on YouTube. We're going to upload it in time for people underestimated him now again. So let's take a look at my old list, okay? YamatoCannon top list here, okay? I did not underestimate Perks. I disagree with how good you have Loken. Deft is no way worse than him. I think Deft, when Deft has good condition, I think Deft is one of the best 80s in the world. But right now, from what we've seen so far, he doesn't have the best condition. And I wish for the best. I am a big fan of Deft. I have personal and emotional interest in hoping that Deft succeeds. He's had back issues, and you know, this has been a rough split for him. But historically, Deft is one of the best AD carries of all time. Which player or team narrative are you most looking forward to? I think it's going to be very exciting to follow TSM as a team. This is going to be super exciting. TSM's story. I think Rogue's potential for upsets. I think naturally any team that is here is a fucking great storyline. You can probably make a movie about any of these. I think that's going to be super hype. Knight's Evolution, Knight's first international event, if you don't count mid-season invitational. Not mid-season invitational, but Machine Gun Kelly. What is it called? Fucking MSC. Mid-season cup. Mid-season cup. So Knight at his first world championship, this is going to create a story of, you know, is Knight the future, or is it like a one-year thing? Do you think any NA team will make it out of groups? Sadly, I don't. The problem is, if the thing is, you are somewhat a product of your region, you know? You can't circumvent that. And the players that manage to become very good in weaker regions are often even more impressive. Bjergsen is a cut above the rest in North America for sure. And Bjergsen, as a player, if Bjergsen came to Europe and had a year in Europe, he would, that level of potential would just fucking be so big, you know? You know, he's just a big fish in a small pond, you know? He's a big fish in a small pond, and in a small pond there's a limit to how much you can grow, you know? That's how I view it. And then EG benched Jizuke, and that was like the best practice he could get. Thank you very much, Mofo 985. I think TSM killed his career. No, like Bjergsen, like Bjergsen and TSM, they've like Bjergsen is one of the biggest players ever in Western League of Legends. Look at the man's following. Look at the man's following, man. He's a superstar. Going to TSM was obviously the fucking choice, man. And he killed his career? No fucking way. You can't even say that. You can't say that. You can't say that. How can you say, like, we don't know, like he was in Copenhagen Wolves. He was in Copenhagen Wolves. How could you, how could you say, like, at the time when he joined TSM was the shit, guys. TSM was the shit. He has titles after titles in a major region. He has won IEM, guys. He was in NIP in between. Yeah, you're right, you're right. I threw that joke in for you guys. I think it's crazy to argue that the Bjergsen ever like made the wrong decision, but it's fun to speculate about how good a, you know, peak doublelift and a peak core JJ would be when Team Liquid was stomping everybody. How well they would play if they had a year in Europe at that time. All right, it's just the competition that you're facing matters. It is much easier to become better when you have a team that forces you to become better if you want to win. The motivation is always the win, right? It's much easier to be motivated to win than it is to just improve, right? To keep winning. That's why Fnatic is so important. Fnatic is so important, and G2 is so important. They are so important for each other. They make each other so much fucking better. So much fucking better. They push each other to make each other better. They make it interesting for each other. Imagine if we didn't have one of those. Imagine if we didn't have one of those teams. Imagine we didn't have Fnatic or G2. What on earth would happen, right? The level of both of either team would be lower. They push each other to 5 games. They are awaiting that final. You need to have 2 great teams to reach that point, you know? And the same thing with Top Esports and JDG. They were chasing each other. They were chasing each other, you know? I farted, but I don't know if the mic picked it up. If Chovy and JDG Top Esports, honestly, yeah, I could see a world where that's the case. Oh, Chovy on JDG, oof, that's fucking nasty, man. That is crazy. That is crazy. Would you call Perks Western GOAT? I think right. I think Caps is in the argument. I think it's easier to imagine Chovy on JDG because he can actually speak with his jungler and he can speak with his AD. I think you cannot compare anyone to Prime Faker ever again. I think Faker was... I doubt we're going to ever have someone of that level. I just doubt it. It's just so unheard of. Like, we're not going to have a team that just wins back-to-back world championships and fucking, you know, people underrate Yagao so much. I agree. I think people underrate Yagao too. Faker has more titles than the rest of the contenders combined. Is that true? It's actually true. It has to be true, right? So who has a title? It's Jackie has a world's title. And then Deft has an MSI trophy. Ruler has a world's title. Core JJ has a world's title. Oh, I guess it's not true. G2 has MSI, full G2 has MSI. It's not true. It's not true. It can't be true. There's many. Ruler won twice. Ruler won worlds twice. Impact, yeah, Impact. Yeah, holy, there's some gems in there. There's some Peanut. Peanut? Peanut didn't win Worlds, but he won MSI. Peanut MSI. Who was AD when they won the first time? SSG 2016 was it? 17? 16? 17. Guys. Oh yeah, Jesus. It was that roster. It was Samsung White. Jesus. How can I forget this? How could I forget this? Samsung White. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Piglet was SKT, guys. Holy shit, they actually also won IM. How good are they, man? Oh. You have sound? You have sound? La, 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 la. Yeah, Kaz has a Messiah, that's true. Do you think Jizuki can shine again if you come back to EU? Yeah, I think so. Imp won Worlds with Mata, yes. That was Looper, Pawn, Dandy, Mata. Soon he make it out of groups? I think so. Can we talk about Alfari, please? Tell me what you think about him. I think he's really good. I think he's going to be in a great team next year. And I wouldn't worry about Alfari. I bet one of the gift subs that Fnatic will win Worlds. Okay. Yes, Jongwoo, love Tank. That I agree with you. That's why they got this little 4 here. Yeah, I repeat one more time, guys, for those coming in. Like, honorable mentions, there's a gap. Like here, all of this is arguable. Like if I switch these around, maybe Perks not, because it requires a bit more of an argument. But, you know, everything is arguable. This one as well, you can do some switching around and I wouldn't mind.